Mm, mm, mm. Oh, yeah. I'm with this, I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters Talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin', that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters Talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half step, Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.
All right, y'all. Ain't no half stepping. Marcus J is live. We in the building, ready to have an outstanding show. Very excited to bring you guys the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. We got a special guest that's going to join us soon. We got wonderful topics that we're going to get to after we speak with our special guests in the main portion of the show tonight. We're going to ask the question, do images matter? Do images matter? And to give you an idea of where we're going with it, think Good Times, Season 1, Episode 2, Black Jesus. Do images matter? We're also going to talk about the teacher shortage, COVID restrictions, a whole bunch of stuff. And there was suicide by cop at the Capitol. That was crazy too. So we got a lot to get to tonight. We got the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. We're very excited and we're glad to have you here. Rock with us.
Yeah.
It's about that time. It's about that time to get.
Button your lip. Open your ears. Strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
And you know how Step with Marcus J is live. We in the building. Be a part of tonight's show at 804-402-2893. Be a part of the flagship show. Her live from New Den of Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you for everybody for rocking with us tonight. We appreciate those folks that are already checking us out right now in social media land. We got so much love already. Peace and love to our sister and Legacy Internet Radio family, our sister Shantae. We know who you are, my sister. Say peace to our brother Tony. Yo, Tim, man, what's up, brother? You saying peace and love to us. So much love and so much gratitude to the host of Vibing with my tribe, my sister and yours, Dr. Pre, from way back in Jersey City, New Jersey. This is someone that I have known and been very fond of for the better part of the last 30 years. And that's some family and that's some love right there checking us out. So I wanted to get those initial salutations in as we go through and we introduce the usual suspects for the night. You see the brother sitting across the table from me in his normal perch. This is my brother and friend. Yeah, so yeah, whatever terminology pops in my head in the actual moment. But we got our brother John here in the building. John, how you doing today, sir?
I'm great.
Are you great?
I'm great.
It's outstanding to see you, sir.
Look, it's good to be seen. I'm just trying. Listen, excuse me, everybody. I'm trying. I started my phone blast a little late, so I'm trying to get to everybody.
Yeah.
And people ask us all the time, "Yo, what are y'all doing when I see you on the phone?" We sharing we sharing the show. So, but I'm great. I'm great.
Yeah, it's good to see you. We getting some more love. We getting love from our favorite uncle in Minneapolis. Uncle H is checking us out. So
what's up,
yeah, say peace to Uncle H. He's a listener in Minneapolis, and we got so much love for him. Our sister Steph won't be with us tonight. We love you. We appreciate you. We miss you, and we'll see you later show. But in the chair tonight, and I'll never say in for Steph because can nobody fill her seat. But this man is a wonderful, wonderful person in his own right. He is the inspiration of Legacy Internet Radio, and my dear friend and brother, we call him Jay Grizzly.
Hey,
what's up, man?
what it do, everybody?
How you doing?
Hello.
How you
What's
doing?
good, John? Yeah, do they know the backstory?
What up, Cuzzo?
Do they know the backstory? Can I share
The backstory? What? The cousin backstory?
Yeah.
You can tell the cousin backstory.
So I walk into the dude there, right? And John hit me with so what you sipping on? I'm like, being I think I don't know, but I come here. When you come into somebody's sukasa, you bring them a drink. So I had brought my drink. He was like, nah, I got you. And I'm sitting there like, oh, snap. Last time I came through, same thing. He was like, nah, I got you. So next thing I know, he putting together this concoction that is right here, and it's quite nice. And then we get to the part of the pre-production of the den, getting to the show, and I'm sitting over there looking at John. I'm like, he drinking a root beer, ladies and gentlemen. I say, this mother's drinking root beer. He don't drink. But he made one hell of a drink tonight. So, and I think you're a chef or a bartender.
Little combo.
Yeah, a little combo. So he's a jack of all trades. But anyway, glad to be here. Or 8.5 Steppin. Appreciate y'all.
Shout out to TGI Friday, JFK Airport.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's money right there.
And the former WWE restaurant, Times Square.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, you worked there too?
That's where I cut my teeth.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember me and Damon used to go in there.
Vince ever come through?
I never seen nobody famous in there.
I never seen not a soul.
I never seen nobody
That was
famous
a
in there.
racket, but that's for another shit.
And with stuff going on at the Garden,
right?
Never did they walk up in there.
Right.
Yeah, I never seen nobody there. I remember me and Damon.
I don't think they could afford it.
Me and Damon and Dub went in there right right when Damon got married. So that would have been in 2002. So we were there then. But you mentioned Madison Square Garden. First of all, let me get some love. Let me get some more love before I continue that. My sister and your sister Laurel is checking us out tonight. Thank you, Laurel, for rocking with us, and we appreciate it. She's saying, "Hey, friends,
Hey, what's going on?
whatnot."
Hey, sis.
So as I watched the WWE documentaries that are on right now, I saw the one that aired last week was the rivals with WWE versus WCW. And you can't tell that story without leading with the curtain call. And so Damon and me were at Madison Square Garden, went to a house show, and lo and behold, we ended up seeing one of the most infamous or famous, depending on what you call it, moments in wrestling history. We didn't, obviously, none of us knew it was that big, but this was during the days, this is May of 1996. So this is when you didn't get the curtain pulled back. You didn't know the certain storylines and the certain things. So when you saw the baby faces and the heels, the good guys versus the bad guys, you weren't used to seeing them interact with one another positively. When you saw them interact, you saw them fighting. So when you saw Shawn Michaels and Diesel at the end of the night hugging with Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Razor Ramon, you thinking, what's going on here? And Damon and me, like, we talk about it now because it's become a whole thing. But the night as we were watching it, we was like, what the hell is going on and why is that happening? And so it was a cool thing. What part of that makes me laugh is Sean Waltman, X-Pac wasn't with him because he was at rehab. He was at rehab. He was at rehab. Yeah, he was at rehab. So
shout out to all the ex-drug heads that wrestled.
So we also got some love from a friend of yours and mine. This is the brother who put Jay Grizzy on, put me on, and got a lot of love for my brother and friend, the OG Tim Casey. Peace to you, brother. Thank you Tim Casey is rocking with it.
I got so many Tim Casey stories.
We all got Tim Casey stories.
I think if you was in Richmond and came into the internet game or the comedy game, you got a Tim Casey story.
The man's a legend. He's a legend. You can't be in this town.
He's the Mitzi Shore
and doing the things that we've done in the places we've done it, and you can't tell me that you don't know at least the man's name at minimum.
I think I gave you a lot of flowers.
Oh yeah. I mean,
salute.
At this point, the man I give him flowers because he said. Now I'm gonna tell you what he said. I'm gonna tell you what he said, but I'm gonna finish the point first because it fits to what he just said. But I've obviously spent some time with him and whatnot, and I have found that we have aged very, very similarly, Tim Casey and I.
We have. He a yogi?
He's not a yogi.
Okay.
He's not a yogi, but he's someone who wants peace. And he's someone who wants love. And so he wants peace and he wants love just like I do.
He always wanted smoke.
Well, I mean, we were always adversarial just because we were young.
In this
we were young and we were aggressive.
Yeah, in this
business, but as we've aged, aged very similar. So anyway, his comment is different guy now. And so but Tim, I got a lot of love for you, bro. I appreciate you and I thank you because I do see when you check in with us on this show. And after all of these years to see that you rock with us and me in particular, man, I appreciate you. So thank you for being here. And you deserve the flowers. So that's what it is. Shout out to my brother James. My brother James is checking us out right now. He's saying VUU in the house, fellas. Say what I'm talking about, my brother. So hard to be a Panther. That's what I'm talking about.
I went to VC.
Yeah, Virginia Commonwealth. Hey man, ain't no smoke with Virginia Commonwealth. Look at the brother's socks, man. I got on VCU socks. Why? Because Mama J.
I was gonna say somebody we know very
famous. My baby goes
so
there.
You about to be an alumni dad?
Yeah, I am. I'm the dad that wears the VCU dad. Right. I got like two of them. I got the hat.
All the kids that did college through COVID.
Yeah.
So
let me get one last comment in. Tim Casey says, back to y'all, much love, plus y'all talking wrestling. So that's what it is. You already know. All right, John, what you got, bro?
So will we be getting a Marcus Johnson building?
I hope one day.
So maybe we can get a spot, right?
Yeah.
We go to Home Depot and get one of them big sheds.
Yeah.
Put your name in the front where they can go do yoga and smoke.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, that.
Smoke. Can I smoke it?
Not cigarettes.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you can do that.
He likes to do the thing that I told him to quit.
He told me to quit, but
I told him
can't.
Listen,
he likes to
cigarette
vape.
smell never leaves. The weed only stays for 7 days in your system.
Right,
he told me to vape. He likes to vape.
I got a combustible. The technology is so crazy now. First of all, think about all the times when we was growing up in the 90s, how you had to sneak to smoke weed because you were scared you was gonna get locked up. When I go buy weed now, sponsored by the government, I have no compunction about it. But people you got locked up, John,
they still there.
And still in jail for what I go through a drive-through and buy. How does that make any sense?
Here goes the crazy. I was so young when I was heavy in the weed. I'm talking about very, very young. I started smoking weed.
You must have saw some shit.
No. Listen, single digits, right? So we used to go to buy weed, and you would get it in a small,
the little nickel bag
joint. Yeah, vanilla envelope joint.
They had tray bags. And the tray bag.
I know about the nickels, but man, you talking about trays?
The tray bag,
Mexican trash,
had about this much weed in it.
Wow.
Right? It was at least what's a 20 now, like 13? It was at least double that in the tray bag.
Wow.
Right? Now, the problem was a good portion of that was seeds.
Seeds, yeah.
So you have to take the album
and stems.
out. You take the album out and you crack it open and you use a playing card
and break it up.
And let the seeds roll down the album.
It's dirt by that time.
Take them. Throw them out the window. You got a weed plant come to spring.
Yeah, we spoiled now.
We went from that to the nickel bags,
right?
And by the time we were still buying loose joints for $1.
Wow. So what?
Hey, look,
they don't want to know what they charge.
Yeah, look, nah, you really don't. You really don't.
Loose joints for $1, but then I'm gonna tell you what changed the game. Sesame. When Cess came out,
yeah.
Bags changed. They got lighter.
That's because of the
little powder.
It's just
seedless. It was basically regular, just seedless. So that came out. But my whole point was in high school, I was getting high so much it was like ridiculous, and I stopped. By the time it became I never got locked up for weed. I got locked up quite a few times, but I've never been locked up for weed. And the funny thing about it was I used to wear these really thick glasses, thicker than the bottom of that glass right there, right? Thicker than that. And nobody could tell when I was high.
So you got away with it.
I got away with it, all that. And then when I became an adult, I didn't do it as much. Casually with, if I was with a special lady, casually, I'd smoke a little weed.
But this whole conversation reminds me, reminds me of a Peter Tosh song called Bush Doctor.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that song, he says, "There's no need to run and hide when you know you're taking a legal ride. So legalize marijuana." The song's called Bush Doctor. I remember I used to love that song, and whenever I would hear it, I'd be like, "Man, I can't wait till they legalize it." Like, and then when you think about all of the people right now, that's away, that's incarcerated because of something
that's in my pocket that I'm about to light up right now,
and that we can all, indulge, in our various ways. It's an interesting conversation, bro. It's an interesting conversation.
I mean, that's one thing I can say that got done towards the end of the Trump administration, as far as on the pardoning side, like and even Obama, I think, did it. Like, lighten the load for these cats that's got these low level crimes that
it doesn't work like that, bro.
Hey, look,
you got to understand how the whole thing. Okay, the 80% of people, 85% of people incarcerated in prison and jail are there for non-violent offenses, right? It should not. We don't need that many people in jail. That's just pushing the system, making money, billions of dollars. Now we need jail for violent people who will hurt other people and do other things. But
yes, we do.
People who just like doing dumb shit, you know what I'm saying, or doing something, whatever the case, they don't need jail.
They don't need to go straight to the joint.
They don't. That's not a jail situation. That's a rehab situation.
Yeah.
That's a hospitalization situation, just like they do with
they funding it
with
wrong.
the pills.
Right.
It's a pandemic. It ain't a crime, and they dealing with it as such.
Dr. Pre has the comment of the conversation so far. She says, I took my passport picture high. That way I never have no problems. Yeah. Laurel says, and now they're going to go to jail for getting an abortion. You know what I'm saying? So
that's two.
Yeah,
right?
So that's a whole thing.
That's a whole conversation, bro. Because I'm gonna tell you what happens in November this year will strongly affect whether or not I'll be
right
here.
I had this conversation
next year
with somebody
because I got options.
Right. I had this conversation with somebody a couple of days ago, and they no, it wasn't. I'm lying. I saw somebody on another show talk about how historically bad stuff is in America, and how people are actually planning to leave the country. Like, it's like an escape plan. Like, in the event that y'all freaking blow up the joint,
I'm set up.
But I mean, I'm saying
up.
people are seriously having conversations like that. Like, how I don't know how you can have a conversation like 20 years ago. We're all of adult age. So 20 years ago, we were still adults. So 20 years ago, adults being responsible, we would have never thought of, hey, what would life be like packing our bags up and leaving the country? Like, nobody, that wouldn't even enter your mind, would you? Think about it.
Not for me. Not in, I was 20 years ago. I was in my late 20s then, and I had just bought a house and just and was on the way having a kid. Like, I would think about doing nothing with that.
I'm a little upset at myself for not pulling the trigger when Trump got voted in
and leaving.
Right, I tried to
he ahead of the game.
But now
I'm telling you,
because I had because I figured he get in, he get out. One, I didn't think he was gonna make it through, but he made it through. I figured he'd get out. Right. We the old school Republicans bring back some sense
normalcy
to the situation, but now it's over. I mean, the Tea Party.
They didn't got it.
The Tea Party got it on smash, and now, depending on what happens with the with this midterm,
they might be coming back.
I can't deal because I don't think a Democrat is going to win in 2024, and I can't deal with a Congress that is not 100%.
They're not friendly.
I'm gonna have us all pause right there because our guest for the evening is joining us. So I'm going to go ahead and bring our brother in. We're excited tonight. We've got a very, very special guest that's joining us tonight. You see him on the screen. Our brother Ernest Porter is joining us, and we're excited about it. Ernest Porter is the author of Reflections of a Soul, the new book that he has written that you can find on Amazon and some of the other locations where you find your book. So we've got our brother Ernest joining us. Ernest, how you doing, bro?
Good, man. It's a pleasure to be on here with such powerful brothers.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you.
Good to have you here.
It's good to have you with us here on the show tonight. I see here the write-up that you have for your book. And so that's how we're going to lead off. I'm going to read this, right? And then I want you to kind of reflect upon the reading of that, and then we're going to kind of just have a little bit of a conversations. But Reflections of the Soul is a thought-provoking and unconventional book that does not shy away from telling the dark parts of history, which many other writers in traditional textbooks try to hide away. If you want to travel back in time and live in a day in a black man's skin, dare to pick up this book and read the unfiltered history in its soul shaking reality. However, be warned, this is not a book for the weak of heart and minds. Porter has put his thoughts so eloquently on the paper that makes every American question their reality, regardless of their color. This is a collection of Porter's memoirs, thoughts, and reflections from the time he was growing up in poverty-stricken environments until the day he sat down and wrote this book. But more than that, it is a Black history in its most unapologetic form. My brother, that's powerful. How you doing tonight, man? You good?
Good, man. Good, good.
Hey, look, I read that now. I mean, I read it before, but now I'm reading it again and sharing it with our audience. We definitely wanted to hear from the man that wrote a book of that way. Talk to us about the book. Where can we find it? We'll get to the specifics of it, but I always like to lead off with how the listeners and viewers can support you. So tell us about how they can find the book and that sort of thing before we get into the other parts.
All right, yeah, you can find the book on Amazon. It's actually on Amazon right now, and I think in the next week it'll be released on Barnes and Nobles, Books a Million, also in Walmart and some other various locations.
So let's talk about the book. I mean, in that write-up, it talks about how it's kind of been something that you've been working on, at least in life. Maybe not sat down to work on, but certainly in life. So let's talk about the impetus of the book and what caused you to actually put down your experiences here, Reflections of a Soul. I mean, that title is deep. Talk to us about that.
Well, the book is based on me. Well, let me back up a little bit. My job is I work as a nuclear power supervisor, and what I do, I travel around the U.S. doing work at the different nuclear power stations, anywhere from Florida to California to the Midwest to the South, basically all over America. And a lot of times in my position as a supervisor, I'm the only Black person or supervisor in that environment. And so in that, you're always looking at your surroundings and you're taking notes and you're looking at how people move, and you kind of, if you're a real conscious person, you kind of ask yourself, well, why are you the only one in that position everywhere you go? All right. So once you start to ask that question, you start to watch the people, and you think about, is there any more Black people that's qualified for the position? Why they can't get in, and behind the scenes, sometimes I would get to work early and they wouldn't know I was in my cubicle, and I would hear some racist comments and stuff when they think they're talking by themselves when they're comfortable. So I've been taking notes for the last 30 years about some of my experience.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I don't really often get into what I do my full time here, and I won't now, but I will tell you that I work in an environment where I am also the only Black person, not just Black man, but the only Black person in the area that does what I do. And so I understand how isolating that can be, where you kind of on your own. And I don't deal directly with the race thing, but certainly indirectly in certain environments. That is what started you writing the book. Talk to us a little bit about the process. How did you get to the point where you put your thoughts down, you got to publish? Like, walk me through the process. Was this something that you had done in the past? Is it your first book? Is your second book? Have you been doing this? Talk to us a little bit about that part.
Well, the process comes through me as a person. I always like to document stuff, and I always like to write down events, especially in my position. And coming up, I would write down things, and just in case I would need that evidence in the future, So I would keep those notes together. And then I began to just look at things and I would question, like I heard y'all talking about the Trump. I'm gonna put that a fiasco. I'm gonna use that word if y'all don't mind.
No, we don't mind. You
Good
said,
choice.
hey,
Good
look,
choice.
you fit right in here, bruh. You fit right in. Go ahead with your point, bro.
So what I was doing, and let me take y'all back a little bit.
Okay.
Like I said, I grew up in North Philadelphia, but I spent a lot of times in North Carolina also. So I had the chance to see both sides, the South and the city. So I saw both sides. Like in my book, you'll see pictures of where the police would make young men strip search them on the street in front of everybody, just humiliating and embarrassing them. So I put that in the book. I didn't want people to think it was something that I was just fabricating. So I actually put the documented news footage in the book, so they wouldn't be just my imagination that I'm thinking. I wanted the evidence to be there. Right. So to go back to what I was saying, then I had went down south and I saw the difference in the treatment of being able to live in an environment where there was a bunch of races together. But when I was in North Philly, it was just us and Puerto Ricans. That was all that was in my environment. But then when I went to North Carolina, it was predominantly whites in that area. So right. It was different. It was a different culture. So what I did, all the time I've been writing stuff down, and I would write down different events and different times and some of the stuff that I learned in school that when I get out of school, I found out it wasn't true, like Columbus discovering America and all this stuff, Then I wonder why we had to learn all these false narratives to get out of a school, to get just a piece of paper to say we graduated. Right. And I thought school should be based on facts and truth. And a lot of it wasn't.
Right.
So I started asking teachers and principals, and sometimes this got me in trouble in school, got suspended because they would go along with the program, and I just wasn't built that way.
Right. Right. And how Steppin Marcus J Live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. Get a couple of comments in here real quick. Tamisha is checking us out. She says, hey to everyone. Our brother and Legacy Internet Radio alumni, Aaron Turner, says, hey guys. He's asking, is that Jay Grizzy? Yes, Aaron Turner. This is absolutely our brother Jay Grizzy. And Aaron comments, and I would like for you, Ernest, to comment on Aaron's next comment. He says, it's a difference between the Deep South as well. What's your thoughts on that?
It really is. It really is. Like when I went there, one of my experiences, like we was traveling one time with my grandmother and my grandfather going down to Florida. So we went through this part of Georgia, and we stopped to get some gas. And the guy was calling my grandfather boy. We don't sell y'all gas, boy, like that. And my grandfather was a very vocal and I'm gonna say strong black man. Mm-hmm. But to make the long story short, when the man called him boy, I was young, but I can remember. He looked back at me and my grandmother, and then looked at the guy. And at that minute, I think that he was in a sense of a quandary. How do I address the situation without embarrassing myself to my family or putting my family in danger?
Right.
But from Georgia to Florida, it was a long, quiet ride because I could see him. I could just see him, fuming, but didn't know what to say.
That's a difficult thing because, I have had conversations with my own dad about, and he's 80, and he can share with us the experiences he had as a military man. I grew up in New Jersey, not far from you in North Philly. And he was stationed here in the Richmond area at Fort Lee, and his experiences and how he dealt with his uniform on and the challenges that he had. And, he's still alive. Like we could still talk to him. He could still tell us, and those things are so real, man. And I appreciate those kinds of stories. I share a story about a time when my brother K-Dub and I were driving from Georgia, Atlanta to here in Richmond. came through South Carolina. We had to go to the bathroom. And so we stopped at the gas station. I won't get into the long story. This is your time. But the short version of it is, we were very unwelcomed in the place that we were. Now, we got to do our business and we bought our gas and used the restroom. But it was made very clear to us that our presence was unwelcome, in the way that they will make sure that And so I just appreciate that, because, you talk about your granddad. I know that's got to be something that stuck with you. Tell me about, or tell us, the listeners, viewers, about how that stuck with you.
Well, it really, really, to see such a powerful and vocal person to be quiet. You know what I mean? It wasn't his normal character. You know what I mean? And as a young boy, you're looking at, well, this don't seem right. This ain't the grandfather that I seen operate in the city. How everybody respected him. Everybody respected what he does, his demeanor and stuff. And then you had a young boy, you trying to figure out what changed, what made him not be the same person he was in his own environment.
Right.
So, but he did tell me later that he had to think about the safety of us at that time, and he told me, yes,
that's a whole thing.
Excuse my language.
That's a whole thing. Like Jay Grizio, I don't know if you can hear him, but he said that's real. That's a real thing. I wanna circle back. It sounds to me like, based on your experiences, brother, I could talk to you. I could talk to you all day because I'm enjoying this. But I wanna refocus us back to the topic at hand, and that's the book. Let's talk a little bit about your expectations. What do you expect to get from this? Writing this book, what do you want?
One thing I wanted to make sure that I had the ability and made it my goal to tell my own story, not let somebody else tell my story. I wanted to make sure I left something behind that says, okay, here's a part of me that nobody can take away, nobody can change. Because so many of us, like you say, your grandfather, great grandfather, they left this earth without telling their story. Like the African proverb would say, when a man dies, a village dies.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure I did that, and I wanted to be able to leave something for my kids to say, okay, in I'm gonna say in any case, any incidents, my father left me something that's tangible. Right. That I wanted something tangible. Right. And this is not a racist statement, this is a true statement. I in my research, I look at all these books that every other nation, every other nationality writes and talk about their history, their legacy, and they leave stuff that people can relate to years down the line. And it's something that we don't do as a people. That's right. That's why I take my hat off to you brothers, man. I listen to y'all talk. Even at work, sometimes I have y'all on in my headset, and they be like, "What is he looking to listen at?" Because sometimes I'll just holler out, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about."
Yeah, yeah, we love you for that, brother. We love you for that. Our brother Aaron Turner has dropped in a few comments here. I want to paraphrase a couple and give you an opportunity to respond if you choose to. I've put them on the screen so the viewers and listeners can see them, but he mentioned how his family is from Lake City, South Carolina, where some of these folks act like they still on the plantation. He also references his dad, who's 87 and retired military, that tells him stories of driving from here in VA down to San Antonio and not stopping at the white hotels. And we all know, well, many of us know, maybe we don't, but we can talk about the green books. The green books were the books that had the information on where we black folks could go in the South that was safe, restaurants, hotels, things of that sort. And so it's a very, very powerful thing. And I'm just, I'm humbled, because, my dad's 80, Aaron, your dad's 87. You know what I'm saying? It's such a blessing that he's still with us and can share these stories. And Ernest, is a blessing for us to share with you. And last comment I'll get in. Uncle H, your nephew Aaron says, "Hey, Uncle H." And you know, has Steppin with Marcus J. Live from New Den Legacy and that radio. So, Ernest, we talked a little bit about what you want to get out of the book. What do
Okay.
you want the viewers and listeners and the readers and the people who stumble upon, go to with intention, or happen upon this book? What do you want to say to them, or what do you want for them to get out of it? Is a better question.
Well, one of the main things I want people to get out of the book, I want them to be able to look at themselves, honestly, because I talk about in this book real quick, I dig into the Constitution where it says we the people. And I define that, what that means, and where we was at as the people at that time. Because people get it mixed up that we were still in slavery at the time of the writing, 1776, and the establishment of the country and stuff. We were still in slavery. So people think that we was free and somewhat at that time, so we wasn't. So I dig into that, what that means. And I really go in and look at the etymology of the word, we the people. So I break that down. Then I dig into a chapter called the Negro mentality. And it talks about how we, as Black people, always fought for this country, and this country never fought for us. I talk about the murdering of Black soldiers when they was coming home. They're still in their uniform. I talk about Mr. Dorsey, which was murdered, him and his wife, coming back from war. I talk about real quick about the community aspects on one perspective. If you never leave your environment, you think everything is in that same manner, and fashion. I talk about that. I talk about a chapter called "Let Us Not Forget," and they talk about the ancestry. You know, how we need to value our ancestors, how we need to keep them relevant, how we need to share their stories, how we need to respect our elders. You know, and it talks about accountability for our community. You know, what's our role and responsibility? Not just to complain, but to do something.
Right.
So,
go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So I talk about a lot of different stuff. I even share an emotional part where when my mother had a brain aneurysm. So I talk about how I was traveling from Virginia back to Philadelphia, and all the stuff that was going on in my head about the possibility of losing my mother. You know, and I dig into how I watch these people in our community disrespect their mothers, hollering, screaming at their mothers, cursing their mothers out. The same one that gave them life, they don't respect their life.
Right.
So it's a broad thing. It's a broad spectrum that I talk about, and I use that as a tool to better our community and better us as an individual. So to answer the question in a couple words, I want to use my life to help better someone else's life.
Yeah. I so appreciate that, brother. I mean, my goodness, I very much appreciate that, because you know there's a level of honesty that's coming from you that I know few folks are going to get from reading this book, and I'm excited, you know, to talk about it, you know. So I appreciate it. As we move towards a close, I just have a couple of real quick ones for you. Reflections of a Soul, written by our brother and tonight's guest, our brother Ernest Porter. My question to you is, obviously you had to go through what you had to go through to get this book published. What kind of advice would you give to someone else who was in the process of writing a book, or maybe never thought about writing a book, or maybe thought they wanted to write a book and didn't have the know-how, or maybe they were fearful, or just a variety of reasons that may cause a hesitancy? Why don't you talk to them specific? Just look into the camera, and someone who's viewing and listening right now has a notion and an idea, but they also have hesitancy. What are you saying to them right now?
First thing I say to you is know your worth. Don't let somebody else tell you what you're worth. Know your worth. And don't be afraid to tell your story. Everybody's story is not peaches and cream. A lot of people don't want to tell the truth about themselves, because once I tell you this, to everybody looking and listening, the biggest thing that's going to be your problem is writing down what you know is true about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes you look at yourself.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But you got to also realize your ups and downs and your trials and tribulation can be the key to somebody else's success.
Right.
And reason why I say that like that is because I had a guy that actually called me in the midst of me writing my book that I've been knowing for years, that was in the midst of thinking about committing suicide.
Yeah.
So he called me. And I'm thinking at the same time, why is he calling me? You know what I mean? You know, what makes me so special that he would call me when he's thinking about committing suicide? So I talked with him, and to this day, me and him is like brothers. So you really have to understand that your story and your struggles can help somebody else.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the midst of writing, don't get hung up on these scam artists out here, because it's a lot of them that hear you tell your story and they'll want to try to take your story and trying to rip you off and rob you and stuff. But other than that, I would say make sure you tell your story the way you want to tell your story, because only you can tell your truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you so much, brother. I love you, brother. I appreciate you, brother, because of the way you spoke to us today, because of the drive that it took for you to put this book out here for us to be able to build upon. Our brother Reynaldo is listening, and he's been listening a while. He had a comment earlier I put on the screen. The comment that Reynaldo that you put on that you put out there earlier. I didn't shout it out because it is more in line with what we're going to talk about later. But what you just asked just now, Reynaldo, or what you just said, is something that I want to share with you, Ernest. Our brother Reynaldo says, man, Marcus J., you just read my mind with that question. I know I got a book in me. I just don't know where to really start to get it out. So I know you said what you said a minute ago, Ernest. But now that you know that you got someone that you got their ear right now, right now, and Laurel, I see your comment. I'm gonna get that in a minute. But he's got you got his ear right now. What are you saying to him, Ernest?
The first thing to do is start writing. It don't even have to be in no format. Don't have to be grammatically correct. Just start writing down. Because what I figured out, once you start writing your story, you will continue to flow in that.
Yeah.
And don't let other people distract you from your goal, because everybody's in your sight, is not in your vision.
My man. Aaron Turner says, I definitely want to get this book. And my sister Laurel says, I'd like to thank the author for this important work. My daughter is an activist and historian, and these stories and photographs are now historical documents. And so I'm just, I'm honored, bro. I'm honored, man. I'm happy to have had this conversation with you. And as we move towards the close of our time together, I want you to spend this last few minutes here telling us once again who you are, why you wrote this book, and how they can get it.
Okay. Again, my name is Ernest Porter, originally from North Philadelphia, and I went to North Carolina, spent some years down there in Wilmington and Leland, North Carolina. Graduated from Northampton High School. Like I say, my job is in the nuclear maintenance field. Do a lot of management work. Got my management license and certificate from Eastern University of Michigan. Right now, I'm actually the acting president of ASALA. It's a Black organization that was created by Carter G. Wilson. That's where we get our Black History Month from. So I'm actually a president of that right here in Louisa County. So I'm proud of that. The other thing about me is, like, mostly I try to spend my time with my family. That's really important to me. My grandkids and my nephews. I still try to play a little basketball, but my knees is not letting me do that. So, but
once a baller, always a baller.
Always a baller, brother. There you go. Hey, look, you still got the jump shot, bro. You stand there, you let them see you shoot it over them, bro.
That's right. Like I say, like
the set shot. Yeah, that's right. John is
there you
reminding
go.
me That's
You
a
know.
set shot, not a jump shot.
There you go.
Yeah. How can
Like I
we
said,
get the book?
oh, you can get the book on Amazon.com, and man, you can. What makes it so interesting, the way Amazon works, the more reviews you get on your book, the farther they push your book up for accessibility. Because like right now, my book been doing really, really well. You can just click your microphone on Google and just hit and speak Reflections of a Soul, take you right to the book. And like I say, it's on Amazon.com. And it's just been an amazing ride and journey thus far with the book to actually see people respect your book and your work, you know. And one of the things I'm gonna add right quick, it's a guy that I went to school with in North Carolina. He's now a minister in North Carolina, and he bought the book and reading the book. And he went on Facebook, and somebody asked him, "What did he learn out of the book?" He said, "I learned there's a lot of sermons in this book."
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I'm excited. I'm happy. You know, we've been talking in this conversation with our brother and your brother, Ernest Porter, who is the author of Reflections of a Soul. Ernest, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor having a conversation with you tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor sharing you with our viewers and listeners tonight. And it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to know that we've got greatness around us in spaces that we didn't even know existed. And for those folks who have been introduced to you tonight,
Yes, sir.
I implore those folks to look into purchasing this book. It's on Amazon. Everybody's on Amazon. Everybody got access to it. There's people right now that's watching and listening, whether it's live now on our replays, that just walked out to the porch and snatched something from Amazon or off the porch. And
Yes.
so the next time you pull out your trusty mobile phone and you're on Amazon, I'm gonna want you to consider looking into this book, Reflections of a Soul, by my brother and yours, Mr. Ernest Porter. Ernest Porter, thank you, brother. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you,
I
brother.
appreciate all you guys, man. Peace and
Yeah.
blessings to all of y'all.
Yes.
Thank you.
You enjoy the rest of your night. And if you got a notion, keep on rocking with us through the rest of the evening, man. We got love
Yeah.
for you, man. And whenever you got something going on and you want to have a voice, this is where you come. The same way that we set this up today, that's how I want you to feel comfortable setting something up in the future. And last thing I'll say, my sister and yours, Dr. Pre, she just texted just now, the book is in my cart. And so you sold some books tonight, bro. You sold some books tonight.
Thank you, sir.
You got it, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Y'all some powerful brothers, man. Y'all keep doing what y'all doing, man. Y'all got my prayers and everything with y'all. And we need y'all in the community.
Peace.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Have a good night and be safe, okay, bro?
Yes, y'all too. Love y'all.
Love you too, brother. Peace.
Love you, brother.
You know how Steppin with Marcus J live from
You put that
new Den Legacy Internet Radio. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing, man. And you know, we've been talking for a while trying to get this thing kind of set up, and you know, the fact that we got to do it tonight, and the fact that the two of you guys are here, you know, it certainly, you know, no disrespect to our sister Steph, but this was like brothers who was sharing with, you know, a brother with something that is so important. Reflections of a Soul. He's talking about how he's been in this space for a long time, and man, that was such an honor to be able to talk to him about that, Grizz.
As soon as he started talking about the book, I identified with him, not just as a black man, but just the vein of story has to be told, because if you don't tell it, somebody's gonna tell it for you.
Yeah.
And I've been in that lane,
And we don't like that.
thinking wise, like I've been in that lane for a minute. Like I gotta say something.
I said earlier in a conversation, and the conversation that I said this in earlier, we're getting ready to talk about it like right now, but I'll say this comment now. We're going to get some love to a listener, and then we're going to move into that piece. But I said earlier, the hunter always tells the story, not the hunted. The hunter always tells the story. So that's important. So 15 minutes ago, while we were talking to our brother Ernest, we got a comment in from our favorite listener. She said, "Good morning." And I didn't want to steal any thunder from our listener, from our guest. So I held off so that we can give them both the full shine that they deserve, our guest as well as our listeners. So as we look into the camera and we say to her as a unison, we say, "Good morning, Sue." Yeah.
Talk, Sue.
Have Steppin with Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. So now we're getting ready to shift gears. And for those folks that are still watching and rocking with us tonight, I'm putting something up on the screen right now, and you can see it. It's a picture right now of Florida Evans, of course, of Good Times, this 1970s show. She's there with her son Michael Evans, and she's pointing to a picture of Black Jesus on the wall. And the reason why I brought this up is I had a conversation in social media earlier today. This was sparked by another one of our Legacy Internet Radio alumni. And, this was someone who, based on the conversation, I get permission to shout him out, so I won't. But Legacy Internet Radio alumni, someone that has had a show on this station in the past, had a comment up, and it was referencing Black Jesus and images. Now, I'm about to take it in a direction a little bit different than where it was going there, but I'm going to set it up. John, I want you to comment first, and Grizz, I want you to come behind him. But basically, I see Black Jesus, and if we remember this episode, in this episode, JJ had painted a portrait of Black Jesus, and it was modeled by Ned DeWino, but that's not relevant to what I'm talking about. It was a image of Black Jesus, and Florida was not having it because the universal, I'll say it that way, the universal image of Jesus was the same Shaggy from Scooby-Doo image of Jesus that we all grew up with.
Marcus,
That's
why we got to talk about this. I need a drink.
Just let me get through it, bro. Let me get through it. It is the same image that we have always seen, and Florida wasn't going for it. She was not happy when she came home, and the kids knew. The kids knew, like, oh damn, mama gonna see this Black Jesus, and it ain't gonna be a good look for us.
So it
and so when when you're right, so when she saw it, she went what they call,
ape shit.
Ape shit. Dang, you read my mind. Like I was trying not to say ape shit, but I think that's kind of like the only phrase that fits right there. So anyway, let me just get to the point so I can give it to y'all. Let me get to the point so we can talk about it. Images matter to me. When I see white Jesus, and I'm gonna say more when this goes around, but when I see white Jesus, I don't feel deity. I don't feel connected because one, that ain't what it say in the book. And two, when I think about my ancestors in this country, I think about how they prayed to the same image that was on the other end of the rope. And so, Marcus J., it's Christianity, it's religion, it's about love and peace. Why you got to make everything always a big deal? Why? Because those folks who are not intimately affected by this don't have the right to tell me that there's something wrong with how I envision this conversation. 1974, when that episode came out, you didn't have the kind of widespread and I don't want to use this word, but it's the only word that I can think, militancy that would allow us to get into this conversation, because for the most part, unless you was a Black Panther or someone who was about that life, you kind of kept moving. And I know this because I done talked to elders who was here in them days. So, John, I said enough. I'm going to say more, but I think I've got it set up enough. So I'll lead you off with a question. You can either answer it or you can go in your own direction with it. But the question is, do images matter? Grizzy will answer that question when he comes back. He's going to take a little break right now. You answer the question. Do images matter?
Absolutely. Images matter, and anybody who studied world history know how much they matter, because there are complete segments within world history that were all about the destruction of images. Right? So the world and its humanity are young based on how long this world has been around and based on how long the universe has been around. We're very young as a species, as a planet. People don't understand time. Very much like how people don't understand the size of the planet. And it's how you get flat earthers and stuff like this. Have you ever, Marcus? Have you ever held a? You shoot pool? You ever play pool? You played pool before?
I used to own a pool table in my basement,
Okay.
and I was a 10-year-old pool shark.
Okay.
True story.
Okay, Grizzy, you play pool?
Yeah.
Right.
Boys Club.
All right. So anybody who's ever held a cue ball in their hand, you held it in your hand?
Yes.
You felt it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So just so you can understand, so people out there can understand the size of this planet. If the Earth was the size of a cue ball from a pool table and you held it in your hand, it would feel about 100 times smoother. Now think about that. We got these mountains, these buildings, all of these enormous objects, right?
Yeah.
But if the Earth was the size of a cue ball in your hand, it would feel smoother by 100 times than that cue ball. That's how big this planet is, right? So this is the understanding that flat earthers don't have. And the same thing we said with understanding about time, right? So around 1800 years ago, 1900 years ago, there was a direct effort to destroy all images of black people when it was in positions of power, right? As recently as 800 years ago, there was the same worldwide phenomenon of destruction of black. Some of the ruling family, significant amount of the ruling family of Europe, black people. And if you read the history of them as opposed to looking at the image, it says a black man, this much, this side, hair like this. So they describe these people, but then they show you a picture of a white man, right? So
trickery.
Then, the continent of Europe was named after a black woman. The state of California was named after a black woman.
The Queen City in North
Charlotte,
Carolina,
named after a black woman. Solomon is recognized as being black. He's from the lineage of Abraham and Isaac. What would that make them? Jesus is of the same lineage. What would that make him?
I had a black person, the person who led this, and I want you to respond to that. I mean, cut you off, but I want you to respond. I want you to respond to this. First of all, let me get some love from Virginia Union University. My sister, our sister Beverly, is checking us out. Peace and love to you. The person who posted this, that was the impetus for this conversation, after I gave her the history lesson biblically, she told me that it doesn't matter, which is the same thing that white people normally say, which was, it just kind of was what it was, because I've gotten, non-religious white people and Christian white people, but I usually only get Christian black people who talk about how their image doesn't matter. But, that was basically, how, we weren't black and white people then, and we won't be at the end of days. That was this person's logic, which is so flawed that I don't even really want to get into that. It was so flawed.
Let me help him out. Let me help you out. Let me help you out, and let me help.
It was ludicrously flawed.
Look. Let me help you out, and let me help out the person who made that statement, because you're both right. Race is a
new construct. It's 500 years old at most,
and it's bullshit. It doesn't really exist.
That wasn't the point that I was making.
But
it was more.
I want to get into
it. It was. Let me just clarify what my point was. It's more about what it say in your book. It's what it say in your book,
right.
And that's describing what we know is not a white person.
Yeah, but that was my point. But then you have people who pick that apart in different translations, where they say the face was one color, the hair was another color.
That ain't what the book say.
It does.
The book say skin like bronze and hair like wool.
No, his feet was like burnt brass. His hair was white like wool. His face was something that they had a whole description.
So
it's different translations.
I never seen a white person with bronze skin.
Just as well.
And I never seen a white person with woolly hair.
A lot of people,
especially in that picture.
Wait, a lot of people try to say he was like, like a rainbow kind of thing. But whatever. Anyway,
that's pretty self-serving.
But of course it is. The whole idea of the hypocrisy of modern religion is ridiculous. But back to what I'm saying. So here's the deal, right? What you have to understand, the whole point of race as a construct, right? It is a psychological warfare that's being waged against people. And I tell people this all the time. White people got it bad too. I mean, they live on the high side of things, so they would like to believe, but that's part of the problem.
Racism goes both ways.
Right. The not that black people can be racist, but you're absolutely right, Chris.
No, it hurts both sides.
Because right, white people truly believe that they are superior because they're white. It is in the DNA. And that's what kills me when I hear white people talk about, I'm not racist, I'm not racist, I never owned a slave. Doesn't matter, it's in your DNA. It's locked in your DNA. It takes a long time of meditation, study. The lessons say it's 34 years before you could civilize a white person. And even then, you have to watch them with a careful eye, because it's in the DNA. It's locked in to who they are, because you've been told. It's just like I've said it before. And the first deer the first deer didn't know to run from the lion.
He looked at
the first lion didn't know that the deer tastes good.
Right,
but
something happened. But right now, if a deer is born, he will run from the lion, automatic.
I see what
right.
Yeah.
So this is what racism has done to us, and the imagery is so important, because we don't know. I was just talking to some people that Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, he stole everything he ever did from black people.
This is where we talk about cultural conditioning, like the analogy.
But that's what the imagery is about.
This is absolutely what the imagery is about, and the analogy that you use, it is in fact the cultural condition. Let me get some comments in. I want to shift and get these comments. It's a bunch in here.
All right.
And then I want to see. Yeah, I want to get Grizzy in. Sue says, I was taught I was made in his image. Last time I checked, I wasn't a 30-something white man. You really aren't though. You really aren't.
That's funny.
Dr. Pre says, without a doubt, images matter. There are things that I can appreciate more now seeing them as an adult, and that I need more now than I did as a child. Ronaldo says, in present day Egypt, you have people in the pyramid sands blasting images on the walls to make them lighter and deny they were black. Let's see. I got some more here, and just bear with me because they're coming in from all over. Aaron Turner says history was whitewashed in the media. Queen Charlotte, black folks. How can you have a whole white, blonde, blue-eyed man that represents Earth? Reynaldo says every Bible it says the mythical Jesus was able to hide in the lands that were inhabited by black people. And then Dr. Nicholas, first of all, this is your first comment in, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Covert versus overt. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J, live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio, rethanking everybody for rocking with us and letting you know that the phone lines are open. You can see it scrolling at the bottom. But if you have something that you want to share, you actually want to call us and talk to us about it. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial, Grizz.
Well, I mean, I always look at stuff I try, and I only came to this point of view as you get older. So this ties into what your guest earlier, the author, I forgot I'm sorry, Ernest, ties into it. To the victor goes the spoils. So you might not be on the other side of the coin. Sometimes you might win some, sometimes you might lose some, but at least you can tell your story or let your story be told so that it can be passed down so it can help the next person. And in regards to this, like to talk about that episode on this show, soon as you brought it to me, I was like, okay, yeah, we're going to talk about it. And then as you were leading up into it, I was like, oh, this is deep. Like, this is deep because this cuts into the core and it makes black people look at themselves and say, what the hell did we fight for? If we like, what the hell is going on? If people are willing to look at us after all this, like we haven't gotten this far, you done killed every single person that stood up that tried to represent us. We didn't even turn vindictive, evil, vengeful after Reconstruction. When we outnumbered you, you were down here starving. We were starving too, but we had revenge on our minds down south, and we ain't even do that. We were just happy that we ain't had to pick nobody's cotton from sun up to sundown. You can give us, we go to war for you, come back home and get spit on. That's why I'm tying it back into your author that you had on earlier. Go to another war for you, defeat Nazis, still come back and get spit on. And then on top of that, you tell us, oh, we're going to make it a fair playing field, Civil Rights Act 64, 65, 66. 50 years of that, and look where we at. 60 years of that, look where we at. To this present day, it don't seem like nothing has changed. So it feels like there is an inflection point in the country, and it happens every whatever the time frame that the country was formed. So first inflection point was Independence War. Second was Civil War. Third was World War. So this is another inflection point that if the country is not careful, it could go all to hell in a handbag very quickly. And all people that look like me say is, leave me out that. Because we don't want to get caught up in it. You already tried to trick us with Florida Evans. She was tight. And that's a mama. So how come Michael and JJ, and this was James was around, right?
James, yeah, you don't remember James wanted to make sure that the portrait stayed on the
Stayed on the
wall.
jump. Like,
So
he
they,
backed
but
her.
his
Shoot
reason
Christian
was
shot?
different. His reason was different
Right.
because it was giving him good luck. And it's fiction, and we shouldn't take the fiction.
But I mean, we could see through that.
we shouldn't take this fiction because I want to keep with a serious conversation here. So I don't want to do too much of the James part, because James part was all about how he felt like he was getting good luck because he had black Jesus versus the white Jesus. But I guess the thing for me, and I'll speak of a very personal situation. I think I may have shared it on the show, and if I haven't, I'll share it now. Certainly for the folks who are new, because we always have new viewers who are listening and watching. But I was having a conversation with a white friend of mine, a white woman who is a conservative, which is odd if you know me, because those people usually don't fuck with me. But this was somebody, not a lot of them, because my level of black pride and honesty usually makes them uncomfortable. But I do have a few, and the ones that I have, I love them. And I know of at least one that's watching and listening now, and I love you, and you know who you are. I shouted you out earlier, Miss Laurel. You know I love you. And she's a white woman. And we can have these conversations because she ain't a sensitive person in the sense that she doesn't understand that there are those in this world who view the world differently from her. And it is an important relationship that I have. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, Laurel. And if you do, I guess I'm gonna hear about it. But I love the fact that we're so different. I'm a late 40s black man who borders on militancy. And she's a 60-something Jewish white woman. And we have the best conversations regularly. Why? Because I'm not caught up in it in a way that I can't appreciate that other people have a different life perspective. And she views the world the same way. That's why we can talk about this, and we can talk like this and have it not be a thing. We can talk about how when I see white Jesus and I call him Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, I say that to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek and assholishness. So do I. But that ain't what I'm talking about. But yeah, because when I see that, this is me looking at that going, y'all know the truth, but you're gonna put this image out here so that you can maintain control. Because that's what white men do. They maintain control. That was something that happened way before any of us was ever thought about. Because when you look at slavery times, they want you to pray to God, but they didn't want you to read the Bible. They want you to pray to God, but they didn't want you to read the Bible. Because if you read the Bible, now you can read. And if you can read, you can think. And if you can think, you can challenge. And if you can challenge, you can usurp their power. They don't want that. That's the reason why you'll get those who are culturally conditioned, like my ex-white friend, who will have heat with me, and they will, in their greatness of trying to be universally loving, and say things like, image doesn't matter, it's about the love. Now, I'm no Christian, I haven't been since high school, but I'm also one who understands and knows the power and the greatness of the character Jesus. And I say the character of Jesus because it is a character in a great book of prose and stories. I know I offended some people. Hey, that's a you thing. That ain't a me thing. That's how I see it. The basic instructions before leaving Earth. And it tells you there
That's
that the feet are like bronze and the hair is like wool. Now, we can argue whether that's a black man or not, but I can tell you what it ain't. It ain't a white man. So you have to ask yourself, why did they bastardize the image and they give you an image that looks like them? You got to ask yourself. I think that's a fair question. I think it's a fair question, especially
but it makes people uncomfortable.
Well, I don't care. I don't care about that. I've been making people uncomfortable for almost 11 years.
No, I'm just saying.
So I don't care.
If you already know you treated like a second class citizen since the beginning of the founding, and then now when you think you kind of got a footing. And you say, oh, but, this is going to happen to us because we're just, in essence, we might be where we should be.
You got
to be what, like John said, you got to have access.
You got to ask, John. You got to ask, why are we culturally conditioned this way when we know that's not the way it's there?
We don't know. Because here's the deal, right?
It's what they books say.
No, well, here's the deal.
It's what they books say.
It doesn't matter. Guess what? Because before you could read, you could see. Right? Before you could read, you could see. And next to Martin Luther King up on that wall,
it's white Jesus.
Was Jesus.
White Jesus.
So your mama.
You got to say it that way. No. You got to say it that way.
Listen.
Because we are of the same generation. So for the context of this conversation, when you say next to a picture of Martin Luther King, you got to say white Jesus.
But
listen, you can't just say Jesus.
You can't just say Jesus.
I'm gonna tell you
for the context of this conversation.
But let me break it down.
Okay.
And the reason why I just say Jesus, because Jesus is only white. Yahweh, Yeshua, probably black.
Because it wasn't no J's.
Wasn't no J's. So Jesus is white. They made that up.
So in the Roman language or the Greek language, the J was never.
He just took my militancy to the next
Christ.
level.
and watch this, bro. Watch this, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Christ is a degree.
Okay.
So he was a white guy with a degree.
Okay.
Because that's all it comes down to.
You just went over a lot of heads.
They need to keep up.
You got to bring that down.
So the whole
you got to bring that down.
The whole point is this, right? If I show you a picture, I say this is Jesus, and you go, well, who's Jesus? Jesus is God. Jesus is God. I thought God was God. Well, Jesus is God's son, but he's really not his son. He's really him. Huh?
Story. But then all of that, it's a ghost in there.
Right.
It's a ghost in there.
I felt the Holy Ghost.
It's a ghost in there.
I'm crazy.
Look, at the end of the day, you put it all together, and what it comes down to, something I've said on this show all the time. The white man gave you your God, and you accepted it.
You said
so
that.
How could you possibly ever go against your God? Right? There was
I can tell you how.
Did you see the movie Demolition Man?
Sylvester Stallone
and Wesley Snipes back in the early 90s?
Yeah. Wesley went to kill the guy, right? He had the gun and he couldn't kill the guy. Right? He couldn't kill him. He's like, I want to kill you so bad. Why I can't kill you? And the guy's like, well, because I programmed you while you were sleeping to do all this killing, but you can't kill me. And he had the gun on him. He wanted to squeeze the trigger. He couldn't. He eventually killed the guy using somebody else's hand, but he couldn't do it. Right? And this is what's going on and I say this all the time, until black folk are ready to get a white man back his God, it's never gonna happen. And no matter how awoke and aware, and we read this in the Yerusha, and the did and the that and the boot and the bot.
Grand Rising.
All of that, right?
Who is with that?
Yeah,
listen.
Grand Rising.
Look, I don't mind the Grand Rising because hell is low and all that.
Hey, look,
right?
I say peace, and people probably throw shade at me.
Peace is cool but guess what? That is also goes back to the old religion. Peace be with you and also with you. They said that all the time. very old Christians play like Muslims. They bow, they put a rug down, they do all of that, they posture, they do all the same thing, and 5 times a day. So it's not, people just really confused about it, right? The Roman Catholic Church, under its own authority, changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? They also decided to add 2 months to a calendar.
Jesus wasn't born in December.
So
December's the 10th month.
hold on, guys.
Do you speak Latin?
No.
December. That's is
so,
10.
So I have
Jump in
a
here,
point.
Chris.
I have a
Jump in
very
here, Chris.
important point or question.
Jump in here, Chris.
If all of this, not even if, all of this sounds very, very factually true. How and why is that? And to tie it into the theme that I'm going back to is, to the victor goes the spoil. So the story, if we look at time, we were talking about, you spoke about time earlier. Like, I mean, in the bigger scheme of things, I mean, this is a piece of sand right now.
Yep.
So what do we do because we know that there's other pieces of sand out there.
We can't win. And this is why we can't win.
Not trying to win. Just trying to.
No. Listen, we can't win. And I'll explain it. I tell people all the time, shut up and get your life together and don't talk about it.
Yep.
Quietly get your life in order.
Yep.
And let it be the example.
Yep.
Because
that's it right there.
We can't win. We can't win war against Whitey because they have a level of evil that we don't possess.
We can't go to.
We don't possess it.
Right. I see what you're saying.
This is how we look. This is how Carthage fell. This is how the natives of this country, of this continent, lost all their land. Right? This is how all of this goes about, because they have a level, and we will continue because it's something in us that goes, you know what? We just had a fight. We won. Right? We beat y'all. And they go, yeah, you beat us. All right, so listen, what we gonna do? They say, listen, here's what we gonna do. We're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. Y'all gonna do. You go, well, yeah, we can agree with that. And we shake their hand. And the minute we shake their hand and turn around and walk away, they kill us. Right? That's what they do. Right? So then we do things. We say, listen,
the scorpion and the frog.
So we go into the thing, right? We go into a situation, and they go, look at our babies. We're about to storm the castle. We don't won the war. They put the babies out front. Please don't kill our babies. We'll never kill your baby. We're not gonna do that. Y'all lost. Oh, thank you. And we take the babies in, and they don't put bombs in the babies. As soon as we pick up the babies, they blow up the babies and kill all of us. Because they don't care nothing about their babies. They want to win.
Now, I think
we can't. We don't have.
Sick.
We don't have it.
Kind of evil.
We don't have that type of savagery.
Yeah, that just sounds evil.
Something about, and it goes back to DNA.
Right.
Yeah. Something about being separated from people. Something about the necessity of inbreeding. Something about the cold climate, being out of the sun. Somebody having to survive. Having to fight with a wolf or a bear for a piece of meat.
They know your ass gonna get ate,
but you're gonna fight.
I'm not gonna get eaten.
So that kind of situation breeds something in these people. So we can't wage this war as much as we want to try. And I'm not saying don't go get your carry license. Go get it. Go get your gun or two. You know, whatever you want to do. That's your thing. But the way that we win is quietly accumulate sustainable wealth. And it's doable in this country. Remember, I'm back on my thing, 718-288-2200. Call me. I'll get you lined up to get some sustainable wealth and show you how it's done. It's much easier than you thought, right? And get that, stay quiet, and just let it happen. And when your children's children are someplace on your family's estate, as opposed to in a public school system, learning what their genius ability is and how they could take that and give it to humanity to make the world a better place within our community, right? Because you have sustainable wealth, because you have an estate, because your finances are set up in such a way that from now and in forever, your family, your group doesn't have to do anything but live and have self-actualization. That's how you win.
I was rocking all the way with what John was saying, because like that's the train of thought that I'm on, where I am in my life, who I am, how I got here, the whole backstory to stuff, thinking deeper than what's actually in front of you. And I always end up with, this ties into what your guest said earlier, like our granddads and dads probably didn't give us the actual story out of their mouths. Like, you might have saw something and indirectly got it, but with the way technology is now, we can put stuff down that 50, 75, 100 years from now, our great grandkids could be like, I wonder what my great granddad John over here thought about this. And boop, it's right there in his head.
Well,
in his head.
Cause stay into the topic. The reason that the imagery is so important, because it is the tool of our demise, right? And no matter how hard we try, when shit get thick, the first thing we do is holler Jesus. And
Lord,
that's all.
Or Lord, I say God,
right?
Lord.
But we know what we thinking.
Yeah, I
we
know.
thinking we
right.
thinking about Shaggy.
Right.
We thinking about Shaggy.
No, really, I'm thinking, look,
we thinking about
I hope whatever's on the other side of this light gives me 40 virgins.
but what I'm saying is, in our mind,
I hope it's a good thing.
In our minds, in our DNA, and it's not just us. White people are feeling the same way.
Yeah.
Right, and it's all a lie.
Here's the thing: they feel the same way, but what they did on the plane.
But let's go.
Our guest is still listening. Our brother Ernest is listening. He says ownership is the access to opportunities.
But here's the problem.
That's a jewel.
But here goes the problem. There's nothing to be owned in this country.
So
we're too far in debt.
Hold on, you see what I say?
I mean, I understand.
I work for a bank.
I understand.
What you have to do is be able to sustain. Understand what locus
but he's piggybacking.
No, I get it.
I hear what you're saying on that, but he's piggybacking what you said before.
I'm doing my best to move people away from a false narrative, because the whole idea. This is how they took the indentured servants. Right, in the 1600s, and separated them into slaves and overseers with the illusion of the idea, hey, listen, you white, and because you're white, you'll be able to own land. The blacks will never own land. You'll be able to do this. And they didn't really tell them that you're never going to own anything, because we have eminent domain with the government, right? You never own it. Right now in the country, you never own anything because you can't buy anything, because we're so far in debt. And you're using debt to make a purchase, and that makes it fraudulent. And because it's fraudulent, they will always hold over your head that you committed a crime when you made the purchase.
You didn't pay for
so
it
we have
cash.
the right. We have the right, and you can only use gold or silver. And guess what? You can't trade in gold and silver because that's against the law, right? So now whatever you do is illegal, and so they hold that over you in case they ever need to come take what you got. So be careful of what you can control, what's in the locus of your control. Do not try to go out and get 10 acres, because you can't man 10 acres. You can't hold 10 acres. Even if you built a wall, it's just you and your family. You can't set up the perimeter. You can't hold it. Get something that you can maintain, that's your own, that you can have control of without assistance from anyone else. Use that to cultivate the intellectual prowess of your family to the point to where you can separate them from this negative imagery, right? Let it be a time where some children will never see or even hear the name Jesus.
Ain't no
And
how
we might
Steppin,
be on the way.
ain't no how Steppin Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio.
makes
I
sense.
want to circle
can't say
back.
nothing
I
about that.
want to circle back to the original topic here. Do images matter? And the reason why I want to do that, I know we brought this up when we're talking about Jesus, and I certainly don't want to equate anybody to the level of respect and reverence that we have for the character of Jesus. But having said, but I said it the way I wanted to say it. But having said that, it's important to remember that that image isn't the only image that we're talking about. Because as a black man, I was inspired by seeing a black man as president of the United States. You know,
Whoa.
when
I was gonna go there and I forgot about it. I'm glad you
well,
brought it up.
I was inspired by seeing a black man as president of the United States. You know, there's a lot of things that go on with the cultural conditioning with our country. Like we know what it is when it comes to it. And there's certain levels of oppression and certain glass ceilings that many of us will not ascend beyond. However, it's important to know that there are certain things that are possible because you see someone else who has attained that. And so when we see a black man in our lifetimes ascend to the presidency, that's important, especially when, and you guys are in your 50s. I'm in my late 40s. I said what I said. Don't you run from it, Mister. I turned 53 months ago. Yeah. When we 20 years ago, did we think it was 10 years ago it was going down? But 20 years ago, did we think, and don't answer it because I'm still talking, but 20 years ago, did we think that we would see a black president in our lifetimes? You think about that. I know that I didn't know. I didn't think we would. And we're also in a time when we were looking at Bill Clinton and calling him an honorary black president. You know what I mean? Like, think about how ludicrous that is. Like, you know, no matter how favorable he may have been to some of us, he was still a white man. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong being a white man. If you're a white man, be happy and be proud to be a white man as long as your whiteness is not the impetus for oppression of other people. When I speak this way, and I only answer for my own self, I don't answer for anybody. My name is on the show, but everybody who comes here has the right to say whatever they want to say. That's how we do it here. That's how there ain't no disclaimer. That's just what it is. It's the way it's always been. And for me, I've never been one, although I may come off this way because of how strong I speak on behalf of our people. Often white folks get in their feelings and think that you got shade for them when you throw support on your own. Ain't no shade for y'all on an individual level. I treat y'all how y'all treat me. Just like I treat anybody black or any other kind of race, nationality, organization, whatever. I treat you how you treat me. You know what I'm saying? But I'm also one who understands that I live in a cul-de-sac. My house is apex with regards to importance to me. Then I worry about cul-de-sac. Then I worry about the block. Then I worry about the neighborhood. Then I worry about the city and the state and country. But my house comes first, and my cul-de-sac comes next, then the block. You take what you want from that analogy. But what I'm saying to you is mine comes first. Period. It's just what it is. And I think that it's like that for everybody.
I can't disagree
like Chris
with
Rock
that.
had a really funny joke, but maybe it wasn't so funny back in the 90s when he was talking about, you know, a black man with his white wife. He said, man, when the revolution comes, I'm gonna kill her first. You know what I mean? Now it was a joke. It's a joke, but the impetus of the joke was, look, man, everybody going to rally around their own if it was some shit that was going to go down.
Ooh,
and
man.
we are culturally conditioned around that mentality. And it just finds me in a very curious place when I think about the world and the country that we live in and the things that we've seen and the history that we have access to, and you still got white folks that question and wonder why black people are pissed off. Like, the fuck country you been in? Like, where you been? Like, where you been, yo? Like, where you been? I'm the peace and love guy. Always been. Like, I'm in a different stage of my life now. So it's a different thing than it was before. But I've always been the guy that's the peace and love guy. Like, you can look at my social media from 10 years ago. Every once in a while I post it so you people can see that I've always been this way. But for real, I want to know, like, what America did you live in that you see George Floyd as a black man under the knee of a white cop and you ask what he do? Like, really? Like, you don't understand why we mad that police rolled up into the home of Bolton John and what's the sister's name? Breonna Taylor, and killed them. One, oh my bad, I was in the wrong spot. And the other one, well, we had a warrant, but it was for somebody else. And nobody goes to jail. And now you got legions of black people that's pissed off about it. What does that have to do with the images, Marcus J? You said it was talking about the images of Jesus. What does that have to do with anything? Because when we talk about power and we talk about connection to images, as a white person, when deity looks like you, the cultural conditioning gives you a sense of power over everybody who looks different than the deity. That's how I feel. That's how I see it. You don't agree? You just don't agree. But you got the platform to call me and we can debate it. 804-402-2893. When I, as a black person, sees a black person burned at the stake, lynched, hung in the period of Reconstruction, not slavery, during the period of Reconstruction, you know, the period of time when y'all said that we was free, but you was still fucking with us, like that period, right? When we've already been indoctrinated in Christian thought and all of those things. When you praying to Jesus, it's not even white Jesus, you're praying to Jesus, because in that time, Jesus was white. Like, we wasn't bold enough to paint a picture.
We were slaves.
We wasn't bold enough to paint a picture of Jesus that was to look like us. No. Like, how dare us? We wouldn't even thought about that yet in them days. So we talking about Reconstruction. And now, when we saw people swinging, Christian black men and women and children swinging, you know they was praying to Jesus. And Jesus looked just like their oppressor. And you tell me in 2022, the images don't matter? Yeah. Images don't matter, yo, for real? Like, come on, man.
So I mean, we learned over the time. I mean, we are the generation. I'm sorry, John, I'll give it to you real quick. No, I just saying,
you win it. Finish your point.
I just think that it has gotten to the point where we have learned enough over the generations. There's enough of us that have been in these type of positions, along with technology, I'll say, where we have an opportunity to pass that down, to put that, how they say it in the streets, we put it down, you know, so that they're gonna, you know, our great grandkids are gonna get something that, even though their attention span right now with TikTok and them is all of 8 seconds, I heard recently, but there might be a snippet of this pod that'll be online for 8 seconds, and they might have heard something John said or something Marcus said, and hopefully it'll spark something, you know. But it needs to be said that what people do matters, and what you see matters. It just does. It could really do you over if you see enough. I mean, I remember watching my first David Copperfield special on CBS and said to myself, wow, he does a lot of good magic. And then, you know, just like as a wrestling fan, when you I don't know what they say, when you break in and they tell you that wrestling's not what it's supposed to be, You know,
Yeah.
it's just like you pull that veil behind the curtain, and you like, oh, and I think that's what we as Black people here, as Africans here, it's like the veil is being lifted, and we are just doing our part to lift that veil.
It's outrageous, John, that there are those in this world who look at us and our frustration and anger with all of this and look at us like it's something wrong with that. Like, I don't give a fuck about those people no more.
So
you listening to the wrong show if you looking for me to care about that.
Here's the deal. I'm gonna try to
shit.
I'm gonna try to
and
help.
I'm the peace and love guy.
I'm gonna try to
yeah.
I'm gonna try to help you out here, right?
Please.
You got some white men on your money. 2 of them wasn't even president. And they on your money, right? There's not much that any Black person is more serious about than their money, except for maybe Jesus, right? And both of those are images of white men, ultimate power. White folks who say that you're not racist, the acknowledgement of race is the foundation of racism. So if you think that you're a white man, you're a racist. That's just it. Because there's no white man, no Black man, no this man. It's just men and women. It's just people on this planet. But the fact that
I don't agree with that.
The fact that you think you're a white man, right?
I don't agree with that.
But I'm gonna break it down.
Yeah, because that sounds outrageous to me.
It's not.
It is.
Different shades.
Listen.
Yeah, no.
Men.
No, listen.
No, because I think that when we start doing that, that's the shit they do when they minimize how they treat us.
No, but let me get into it. Right?
Time.
You
Unfurl.
are falling into the trap that white people are doing something to us. They're not. It's the power structure.
No, that ain't no trap. That's normally. I'm fully aware of that.
Right.
It's usually you that sounds like that. You blaming on white folks. That's usually you.
No. The thing I blame on white folks is stop being so damn stupid.
Well, yeah, that part.
Right.
To the cultural condition.
Right.
But
because
that you are a party.
Because
to.
your brain.
Yes.
Has been sabotaged. Right. You're not better than Black folks. You're not doing better because the stuff you think you have can be taken from you in an instant. People in China cannot go to the bank and get their money.
I saw that though.
Right?
Man.
So you really think, right? You really think that the idea that your privilege exists? No, the slave catchers have been so conditioned in their mind that they don't really care about you if you ain't in blue.
Reynaldo's asking a question to you specifically, John.
Yes.
John, power structures are maintained by who?
By those in power. And guess what? They're not many, but there are a few that are Black.
No, I agree to say is that they're confined by
there are a few
who you identify.
1% of the population of the planet controls 93% of all of its assets. 99% of the rest of us fight over the 7%. In that 1%, there are some Black folks. They have control. They have information and knowledge. And that's part of the trickery, the coonery and buffoonery of believing that there's race. There's haves and have-nots. There's people with power and people without.
Yeah, I mean that all sounds good. That all sounds good. But at the end of the day, we also know that white supremacy
helps
is what we dealing with.
But that's a lie in of itself.
Yeah,
because they are not supreme. They're not over. Or here's the difference.
What's the difference?
Here's the difference, right? They have an allowance of verbalizing complaint that you don't enjoy. That's it. Because guess
Make
what?
Make it plain, because I don't understand what you mean by that.
A white man can stand in front of a cop and, depending on the day he had, tell him to fuck off, buddy. Right?
But we can't.
You can't,
Okay.
because
we know that.
The reason,
apply that to what you just said.
The reason you can't is because the lie of race, right? But the problem is the white man who believes the falsehood of his complexion,
he ain't threatened by the white boy that said
will do it
off.
and
He's
get
scared.
murdered too.
Yeah, he's scared.
Right? He will get murdered too. It will get to the point to where that bullshit that he believes falls apart. This is how you get white people in jail. There are white people in jail.
How do you end up with Dylan Roof, who killed a bunch of black people in the church and ended up going to jail with handcuffs on
that man
instead of dead?
I'm gonna tell you why.
I mean, that's one example.
Because
that's the first one that came to my mind, which is contradictory to what you just said.
It's not contradictory.
Of course it is.
No, it's the reinforcement. It's the reinforcement of the ideology of the white Jesus, of the imagery.
Okay.
Right? It's the reinforcement of it. But it's a lie. It's an illusion. Again, we are actually thinking like we matter.
But you do realize the perception is the key, though, right?
Right. But but we got to get away from that. Because guess what? It's a big hole, right? It's a big giant hole, right? The hole is wait.
But that's
let me finish.
Though.
The hole is 100 feet deep. 99% of us are in the hole. 1% is on top of the hole, right? Mm-hmm. And they're telling you, hey, white people, here's a rock that's 6 inches high. Y'all can stand on that rock. And white people are believing, because they stand on the rock, that they can get out the 100-foot hole. You're not getting out the hole. They fucking with y'all. And then y'all turn around and fucking with us because you got 6 inches.
I understand
all
what he's saying.
Bullshit.
I understand what he's saying.
It's all. Listen to me.
I don't care much for the way it's being disseminated, but I understand what he's saying.
It's all bullshit. And when you can wrap your mind around it, right?
We can get along.
No, we don't even got to get along.
No, we ain't gonna
right?
get along.
We don't got to get along. But guess what? White people, black people are not your problem.
And we ain't your enemy either.
That man taking that FICA out of your check is your problem.
But see,
and guess what? That ain't a black man.
But I understand that. But I guess where the disconnect is, again, perception is key. And the reality is, while what you're saying removes the race from the conversation, I think the race is paramount in the conversation.
It is paramount, but you have to acknowledge it for what it is.
It's paramount for the conversation because of the system. Like, I've never been one to assume that all white people are bad people. And I know that my rhetoric often will make folks feel that way. And if you know,
they're victims of racism.
But they're also they're victims of weak black people and cultural conditions.
No, they're victims of evil white and black people who create a foundation of racism to make people believe that they're in conflict.
I won't finish my point. They're victims of that, in the sense that them understand, good people understand that people are people. Mm-hmm. But we also know that black people, because we have been oppressed and fucked with, some of us are very vocal about how annoyed we are about that. And there are a section of white people who don't want to hear about our annoyance. Our annoyance at the system annoys them. You got it good here.
Because they affiliate themselves with the system.
Hold on, I'm not finished. Okay. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. What you complaining for? America is good. Can't go nowhere else and live this way. All of those things can be the same, while at the same time y'all still fucking with us. You see what I'm saying? We can speak on all of those things at the same time. This is what the essence of the supremacy is. The supremacy is about the system. It ain't about the people. It's about the system. It's about the system of how, when we look at statistics and we see that white people kill and rob and fuck with their neighbors, the same numbers that we do in their neighborhoods, but all of a sudden we got a phrase called black on black crime to make it seem like we are predisposed to this nonsense. That's what the system will do. That's what supremacy is about. Supremacy is about when we get pulled over in the same neighborhood that maybe they get pulled over in, it's assumed that we don't belong there. That's what supremacy is about. That's what I'm talking about.
But what that supremacy is it is an extension of slavery, right? Which is part of the foundation of this country, right? So
Right.
again, if you want to travel the world, I travel the world, and I stand behind the American flag. I can't do that without understanding the fact that I'm able to stand behind the flag because people beat, raped, and destroyed the native people of this country, right? And I understand that, right? But there's nothing I could do about it because I don't want to stand behind another flag because we got more war shit than the rest of the world.
Ain't no ask that, Marcus J. Live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. We're gonna give Ronaldo the last word here, and then we're gonna start shifting towards our close here. Other stuff that we wanted to get to, yeah, we ain't gonna get to it. Ronaldo says, yeah,
You can touch it a little bit.
You want to touch?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right.
It's important, I think.
All right, is one of word. Did you ask if you could use the bathroom? What you gonna do next? Raise your hand, man. Just excuse yourself, man. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to go to the bathroom. You just going to get another drink. And yeah, I'm going to call your ass out. This is why I love him. Ronaldo says the system of racism, white supremacy is not about individual white people. It's about the policies, laws, rules, and regulations that enforce itself, which is essentially what I just said.
What I'm saying is it's an illusion, and the white people are being used the same way that the black people are being used against one another to not understand how the power structure has us all in the same hole.
Yes. While I don't disagree with that, I think we can all agree that our hole's a little bit deeper than that.
About 6 inches.
Okay, but
in the grand scheme of things.
But the point being, our hole's deeper.
But guess what? There's plenty of rocks. And the problem is, black people actually think, because they pray to Jesus, that they can't stand on that rock because that's for white people. Because white people is Jesus. That's the mentality of the black people.
But you just,
black people.
I'm glad you said that because you just brought this whole thing full circle.
Black people got to get out of that, right? Get out of that. Get a white man back as God. Let him pray to that and figure out quietly with your mouth shut where the rock is for you to stand on.
You nailed it. I mean, you nailed it. Like, without having to go back and forth with you, you brought it full circle to a place of agreement with you and I.
You know what Kanye said one time?
Oh, good grief! You gonna
I gotta give it to you.
You gonna quote?
I gotta quote.
Like,
listen, I don't like him.
Let me get myself
like
together before you do that. No, I promise you don't. But okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
Kanye, I don't even think he's a good musician. That's how much I don't like.
Well,
anyway,
I don't agree with that.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. So I guess you're all right.
So now, Kanye said that a brother won't do 4 years in college, but it'll do 7 to 12 in the pen. He's willing. He's willing to do 7 to 12 in the pen, but won't do 4 in college.
I mean, he's arguing. I mean, I'm not moved by that because,
but that is the mindset.
But our generation was hit with the go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college.
Thank you, Bill Cosby.
But that doesn't.
Who everybody.
Well, it even predates him. But I'm just saying, go to college, go to college, go. That's all I ever heard growing up.
Nobody
go to college,
in my
go
hood
to college,
thought
go to
about
college.
it till Cosby.
Okay, I mean, the neighborhood that I grew up in was not that. I mean, I don't know exactly where you grew up, but
Brooklyn.
I mean, Brooklyn. Y'all kill me with that bullshit. Like Brooklyn is all one big ass project. Like, come on, it's not. There's parts of Brooklyn that ain't all, the dystopia and freaking Mad Max. Like, I got it. It ain't just that. There's parts of Brooklyn that ain't that. So I get to say, well, what do you mean? Because there's parts of Jersey City that's dystopian and Mad Max.
Really?
But then there's part like I grew up in where, as hard and rough as it was, there was some of us who grew up with James Evans.
Hey, look,
like I did.
Listen, everybody I know Well, no, that's not true. My sister went to college before Cosby. Now,
There-
my point is,
I just before you
the
go
people-
there, you can acknowledge that there are parts of Brooklyn that ain't what you just made it out to be just now, right? You
100%.
did have your
curious to know
tongue in
how
your
he met,
cheek,
'cause I
right?
used to live in
You had your
Brooklyn.
tongue in your
But,
cheek,
here, but
didn't
here's
you?
my point. Here's my point.
You did.
In my circle,
Y'all Brooklyn
the
people,
people
make me
that I
sick.
know, what made college the thing to do was Cosby.
By the time that came along, though, you was too old, not too old, but you were about the age
What's wrong with going
where
to
you
college?
would have been going.
What's wrong?
Yeah,
hold on,
but
what's
it
wrong with
wasn't.
going
It
to college?
wasn't. Honestly, and my sister
Is older than
was
you.
was in college, but it wasn't in my mindset. You know what was in my mindset?
Get out.
Working.
Get that money.
That was the thing.
Well, that was
Get a job.
Brooklyn
We-
niggas
that
get
was-
it.
we was-
Excuse
yeah.
my- oh, my bad.
We was
got a
hustling.
little familiar there, didn't you, Grizzy? Yeah.
But
It's all right.
my,
I'm gonna make you put something in the jar.
my point is this. All of that comes all the way back around to mental conditioning, right?
Right.
Which begins with the imagery, right? Because before and now it's even beyond it because it's in the DNA.
All right, let's do this. It's the top of the hour. It's top of the
We
get
give
ready.
it
We
5
get
minutes,
we get
quickly.
ready to go. We get ready to go into our third hour, and so we're at the top of the second. Getting ready to go into our third. I'm gonna play a clip. We're gonna round table this conversation, see where it goes, and then we're gonna move towards our close. So I mentioned to you earlier how we were gonna do a story on suicide by cop. So we're gonna do that. We'll talk about wherever this leads us, and then we're going to take it on. This clip's about 3 minutes. Take a listen, and here we go.
We're also following breaking news from Washington. And first, we want to stress there's no information at this time into what motivated this. But a man is dead after he crashed his car into a barricade near the Supreme Court early this morning. Capitol Police say his car became engulfed with flames after the crash. He then got out of his car and fired several shots in the air. As Capitol Police approached, the man shot himself. No one was hurt. Joining me right now is NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Rafa. So, Ali, what have we learned about who this man was and what his motive could have possibly been?
Yeah, Lindsay, I'm glad you stressed that off the top there. We're still not sure what the motive was here, especially because we know lawmakers are back home during this August recess. So that's something that Capitol Police say that they are looking more into as far as who this man was, where he's from. They say that they're aware of 2 addresses from Delaware and Pennsylvania that he's lived at, as well as a criminal record that goes back around a decade. But as far as his identity, they're waiting until notifying the next of kin before releasing that publicly. But once the sun came up today, that's when we saw really some chilling images after this crash that happened around 4 o'clock in the morning when this man plowed his car into this barrier right between the Supreme Court and the Library of Congress, really just a block away from the Capitol grounds. Capitol Police Chief giving an update this morning saying that in light of this, you know, the backdrop here, this rise in threats to law enforcement nationwide, that's also happening here at the Capitol. Take a listen.
There's always some chatter somewhere, and certainly the Capitol is a very high-profile target for a lot of folks, but that we had not had anything specific over the last few days that we would have had any idea that something like this would have happened. But I think, like law enforcement nationwide, we are on a higher alert. We have put some enhanced security operations in effect so that we can not only try and hopefully deter and prevent something like this from happening, but certainly respond very quickly to mitigate it if we have to.
So one big question now is how he was able to get so close to the Capitol. This barrier that he crashed into is a block away. He then, as you mentioned, went off on foot, shooting his gun into the air, and officers didn't respond to him and approach him until he was actually setting foot onto the Capitol grounds. So that's something that Capitol Police is definitely looking into, Lindsay.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from New Den Legacy and Radio. Phone lines are still open, 804-402-2893. John, you got this dude that rode up on the Capitol and he basically committed suicide by cop is the way that sounds to me.
Suicide by cop would have been if he would have ran at the cops with an empty gun towards them and they shot him.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
just killed himself.
He killed himself. Obviously, he killed himself. But
He-
to me, that's still. I mean, we could play semantics with the terminology. Fair enough.
No, but that's a thing. Suicide people do that to get the cops to kill him because they try to get money.
Absolutely. But when you see this guy make this sort of public display and draw them in, just so that he can kill himself in front of everybody,
Right.
Again, to me, semantics, but I understand those who would say that I'm wrong with using that terminology. Having said all of that, let's talk about this topic.
Something else happened. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure there's some sneaky law that got passed. Somebody did something dirty. Somebody got let out of jail. Something happened because it ain't news. They put it on there. Look at the pretty thing over here. Pay no attention to the man behind
So you're
the curtain.
waiting to find out what happened.
Something happened.
Yeah, like all of that.
Listen, it's always some shit going on.
Like all that money that disappeared from from America on the day before 9/11 on September 10th.
Yeah.
For all
the Pentagon,
federal
$3
trillion from the Federal Reserve
that
that vanished that we never talked about again.
The money in the negotiable bonds, the diamonds and all other shit in the basement that vanished from because when they dug out the
September
rubble,
10th, 2001.
No. When they dug out the rubble from the World Trade, the safe was intact, but it was empty.
Yeah.
Well, is it a money grab or is it a world domination thing? I don't. What do you?
It was a redistribution of wealth
for who? Because we know
for the wealthy.
Oh, so it's a money thing.
Because
to me, that sounds like a money thing. Like
it's always all money.
So the money thing is
building 7.
Yeah, he who has all the riches gets to tell the stories, get all the girls.
But it's not. But guess what? The money is an illusion. Here goes the problem.
So
we got one
of power.
Right. We got one planet.
All right.
And the only way for me to have a bigger slice than you is for your slice to be smaller than mine.
Okay, so
that's it.
Right. So they plan. So the thing is, the game of life that's being played is I want to dominate you so that you don't dominate me.
No, the game is I want my children's great grandchildren to never suffer.
Oh, somebody gonna suffer for that. I mean, that's just gonna happen. I mean, the smart thing is you gotta know that shit.
No,
what you put there. I know white people don't think that. White people don't believe in like juju or something. But like, listen, what you put out in the world comes back.
From 1492 to right now,
right? They can't. It can't. So wait. So hold on.
But we gotta remember, these are small snapshots in time.
And I'm curious to know if you got any white listeners, Marcus. White people, do you not think that there's some type of way of the world, like retribution type, just you put out bad, you get bad back?
No.
They don't think like they don't think that. Right?
What they have no example.
I know they don't have an example yet. But honestly, like God has given you enough time to say, hey, like you kind of like gonna fuck it up for everybody.
No, they still good. This is the Holy Roman Empire.
Well, then
it hasn't failed.
That's just.
I mean, when you look at history and just remember the stuff that we was taught, all of these dynasties eventually failed.
I know, but I'm thinking
but
if
they
you don't
didn't
learn
really
from history.
They didn't really fall. Let me tell you, the last dynasty that fell was the last dynasty in Egypt when they burned the Library of Alexandria and they took all the information of the world and hid it in the Vatican. That was the last true fall. Because since then, this has been the same dynasty that's been rocking, and they will continue to rock because the way it's set up, the way it's structured. Again, people like this news story.
Right.
People are talking too much about what they're doing. So anytime something is getting ready to happen that might be positive, where people might really go, wait a minute now. Bobby Kennedy was standing on the podium with Black Panthers behind him.
And Rosa Greer.
right?
Yeah,
They
Rosagrill
shot
was
him. He had to go.
How did Rosagrill not know? Rosagrill's a big black man.
Listen, he had to go.
I'm not saying
because
you.
that because
I'm just
the
saying,
listen
like, he could've
the idea of that imagery, the Black Panthers were with the Spanish group, were with the Mexican group, were with the white groups were in on it. They were like down with the man and the hippie move. They was like,
Right.
nah.
Just as I was always curious about, and because it was before I was born. So that late 60s, I was born right after that.
I was on the planet.
I wasn't. But I always wanted to know, like, what was life like for the average brother in any hood.
You know, if you
It depends on where you live.
Right. In any
Because if you was
hood-
in New York, Chicago, if you was in
Right.
Oakland, different places, there was racism, but it showed itself different.
And the reason why I say that is because
We was voting.
We was voting, but I had uncles.
We sat on the bus where
and
we
I
felt
heard
like
I
it.
had stories of the black men that were influential to me, and was like, yo, we didn't know where the next meal was coming from. We growing up, dudes is stabbing, fighting, shooting. Like, it's just a dog eat dog type of existence for a black man in those times.
But guess what? That goes back to 1% of the world's population controls 93% of the world's resources.
Yeah, but
So
I go
we
back to
got-
Marcus's
but wait,
point,
no,
and
no.
I'm gonna be fair.
We
Hold on,
got
John. I'm gonna be
90
fair.
we got
It only
99%
matters what
fighting-
happens in front of your square.
Right. But here's what happened. That's my point too. Here's what happens. You have to acknowledge. People got to acknowledge numbers, math. Study your math. Forget about everything else,
All right.
people.
Fair.
Study your math.
That's fair.
Understand what the numbers are telling you. Understand what the numbers are telling you. If you understand what it is that you have to fight for, understand what position that
The
you are allotted, then you can go from there. Until you can create nationality and nationhood where you can operate on the world stage, you are nothing. You're nothing.
I see what you're saying, but we have to. I think what we do in this era is just like a clog in the bigger chain of things, and I'm all the way with your earlier guest. I keep harkening back to that because I think he, in essence, was saying I need to just put this down in perpetuity because I want somebody to know I was here or I said this, and nobody else can say it other than in my voice. So
No, 100%. But watch this. Something happened this year, or maybe it was late last year. Worldwide people of color, black folks, have been acknowledged by the continent of Africa as a diaspora, as a sixth portion.
I saw that on the
And,
BBC.
and there within that acknowledgement and establishment is a level of power that we are unaware of.
Yeah.
Right?
I saw that.
That we're unaware of. We got to remain quiet, but we got to understand what tools are there. That goes back to that rock. They're rocks for us to stand on.
Man.
But we got to stop.
Okay.
We got to
I
stop
can
thinking about it. All right, Mark. I'm sorry. I got you.
You're making plenty of sense.
You know how Steppin Marcus J Live from New Dan Legacy. All right, so let's shift because we could stay in this forever. But we at the stage where we do need to shift. So housekeeping, couple of pieces to get to, moment in Black history, and then our missing children, and we'll rant and we'll close. This week in Black history, August 11th, 2017, white nationalists protest removal of Confederate statues in Charlottesville. The next day, a protester drives a car and kills 19-year-old Heather Heyer. Remember that? You guys remember that? That's right here. And Donald Trump says it was very fine people on both sides. On both sides. On both sides. 2013, on the 12th, Federal District Court rules New York Police Department stop and frisk policy is discriminatory and unconstitutional upon finding 85% of the people stopped are Black and Hispanic. Shocker. 2006, nearly 55 years after civil rights activists Harry and Harriet Moore were killed by a bomb, a renewed investigation finds 4 now deceased Ku Klux Klan members were deceased. So 55 years after it happened, these people lived the rest of their lives long enough to die before they ended up deciding that this was something they needed to address. Last one, 1995 on the 18th. NAACP protests National Park Service decision under pressure from Sons of Confederate Veterans and Senator Jesse Helms to remove coverings from faithful slave monuments at Harper's Ferry and here in Virginia. They on there. Yeah, I tell you, I always read that stuff because I just marvel at the colossal gall that these folks have with their bullshit and how we supposed to just swallow it. Like, let me finish my point and you'll jump in. The colossal gall that these folks have that we're supposed to just swallow it. And as we talk about the topic that we were in today with imagery and how we as Black people absorb the same thing that they absorb, the arrogance of assuming that the interpretation is what you would interpret is just mind-blowing to me, Chris.
I mean, I laugh at because of the honesty in which you say, because I understand as a brother, you know, and I so much want to give. I want to call white people my brothers, but you just don't treat me as such, or anybody that looks like me as such. And this is coming from a guy who is, if you could tell by how I look on the screen, is just about as mixed as possibly.
You're Black, man. You Obama Black. I can look at you and see. I can look at you.
Obama could possibly.
Dude, I got you by like 2 shades.
But I mean, even the colorism.
But you Obama Black.
Right. But even the colorism of it, like.
Here's what I will say. Here's what I will say, and I'll take the last word on this. Then I'm gonna do these missing children. Then we're gonna shut it down. I am never going to be okay with painting any group of people by the same broad brush. I'm just never going to be okay with it. People who listen to me or watch this understand that. The people who listened once and left probably don't. But the truth of the matter is, every single person deserves a right to be judged separately on their own shit, period. Now, do we look at certain groups and we have weariness? Yeah. Like anytime I see a pit bull, I'm like, I don't fuck with pit bulls until that pit bull comes over and rubs on my leg and I pet his head and I realize that he cool. But when I first see the pit bull, hold on, don't cut me off. Let me finish. When I first see the pit bull, I'm like, oh shit, that's a pit bull. You know, and then I'm like, all right, the pit bull fucks with me. All right, I'm good with the pit bull. But you a pit bull now. You a pit bull. And you got to understand your history as a pit. Now, we got to understand that in the same analogy on the other side, we are the pit bull. You know what I'm saying? To them, to some of them. So I get it. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But we have to be, at least me, we have to be mindful that every pit bull ain't gonna bite you. But the pit bull has to understand. Now, pit bull's a dog, and I get it. But keeping with the analogy, the pit bull's gonna have to understand that you motherfuckers bite. So I have to be leery until I realize that you don't bite.
I got a scar right here from jumping the gate from a pit bull.
Hopefully, you just always gotta take it too far. But
it's real talk.
I hope that those viewing and watching understands the point that I was trying to make. I usually do good with analogies. I'm not sure how that one went over. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J, live from New Den Legacy and era. Let's get these missing children in. Wow, I hate this part. All right, 3 of them. We're going to Chesterfield, then we're going to Henrico, then we're going to go to Richmond. We're looking for Tion McClain in Chesterfield. She's 15. She is a black female in this picture. She's got the red micro braids that go down her shoulders and stuff. It says she's got blue eyes. She's 5'9". She's 131. Last seen on August 6th. May require medical attention and medication. So if you're seeing Tyon McClain, please contact the Chesterfield County Police Department at 804-748-1251. We'll shift over to Henrico. We're looking for Caden King. He's a black male. He's 15, missing since August 7th. He's 5'6", 117. If you've seen Caden King, please contact the Henrico County Police Department at 804-501-5000. Lastly, in the city of Richmond, we're looking for Kimaria Smith Jackson. She's missing since August 10th. Also a 15-year-old black female, 5'3", 160. She was last seen on August 10th and she has a small scar under her right cheek, under her right eye. If you've seen Kimaria Jackson, please contact the Richmond City Police Department at 804-646-5100. So let's recap. We're looking for Tion McClain in Chesterfield. We're looking for Caden King in Henrico. We're looking for Kimaria Smith Jackson here in the Cap City and City of Richmond. If you have seen any of the three of them or any other missing children and or including all of the ones that we've ever profiled here on this show, please contact the National Center for Missing and or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.org, or contact them at 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678. And it's just, it's one of those things, man. I get so caught up in this missing child thing. And Grizz has been with me since the beginning. He's always been with me on radio. There's never been a time where I just didn't feel this. And I just want y'all to know it's a part of what we do here. It's important for us to have you guys be as aware as we are aware. And it's important. Grizz, you wanted to say something?
No, I mean, that's important. I just wanted to know that what you do here on Ain't No Half Steppin' every Monday or whenever you broadcast, I don't know what the schedule is now, but it reaches a lot of people. And when I say it reaches a lot of people, especially with the technology that it is today, I want to give a big shout out because somebody hit me on my social media because I was checking in Hawaii, and it's about 3 hours. They was just like, this is an awesome thing that you're doing. And so, yeah, that we, okay, he's good. He's good with the pronouns. I don't do that.
I am.
But I mean, shout out to my uncle, U.S. retired Army, fought in a lot of wars for us, for the country anyway. But in Hawaii, checking me out, and he was just like, yo, man, this is awesome. And I was just like, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
That you've been at this.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it was in August of 2011 where you and me and Tim Casey, Carlton Banks and others, we got together outside of the location that we used to be, and we had a whole cipher before any of us did our first in the parking lot before any of us ever touched the microphone.
And
it was we taught ourselves and each other how to do this in a grassroots level. And one of the most well-known missing people cases here in this town is that of Keisha Jacobs. And I just I think about Miss Tony all the time. I just, man, it just makes me so sick whenever I think about that case. But we always have Miss Tony Jacobs and Keisha Jacobs in our thoughts and in our thoughts. And so, she's another one. If you have seen her, she's an adult woman, but the National Center for Missing and or Exploited Children will certainly take your calls. So if you've seen Keisha Jacobs as well, please contact them at 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5600. Ain't no how to step with Marcus J live from New Dan Legacy in that radio. All right, so we're gonna do our rants and our closings. Grizzy, you going to lead us off. John will follow. I will close.
Okay.
And this is how we're gonna do it tonight. And so you know how to do this. You got a Grizzy gripe, you can gripe. If you ain't got no gripe,
I'm a promote.
this is where you get to tell John and me how great we are for letting you come here and do the whole Grizzy thing.
Thank you for helping me out. Because I have
you do the Grizzy thing.
Yeah, I've had quite a time. Give me some space. How they say in the business, let me breathe.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let me breathe. First, I would like to thank you, Marcus J, and you, cousin John. Appreciate it for inviting me and having me on to Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J. I appreciate you both. I love you both as brothers, and thank you for having me. My name is Jay Green. Some people used to call me Jay Grizzy. Some people call me Jay Grizzo, but I kind of think I'm funny. So I might be doing something later on in the fall, having my own special part of Legacy Internet Radio. Of course. I mean, where else would I go if I wanted to be having a platform? I mean, just because I rocks with this guy. He says, what's the saying, Marcus? Pick up your microphone, please, sir.
You rock with me, I roll with you.
See, that stuff, I don't know how to say that stuff, but I like it. And so I might be doing something as a joint venture here pretty soon. But my gripe, I have no gripes. Where I'm at, I'm in a lovely space. I mean, I like watching you guys because there is such a wealth of different points of views that as a black man you can say, okay, it's like what Skip Bayless and Stephen A used to have, you're sports guys, but you got different points of views on sports, and I think as a black guy in this space, in this space that we do, where the technology is allowing us to get our points of views across, there's a lot of people that's going to be effing with you, and there's going to be a lot of brothers effing with you, a lot of brothers effing with you, and there's going to be some goofy brothers that's effing with me, and I think that's what we need to get out there, because this reaches so many different people. And I mean, like someone said earlier in the show, it's in the palm of your hand. So you don't know when Ain't No Half Steppin's gonna pop up in your timeline, or you're scrolling up and you see a clip or something like that, and you say, "Oh, I understand," and you might think, especially because I have young boys, they think that because I'm dad, like I don't know what it is, like I don't know what's going down, and I'm like, dude. Trust me, I was your age at one point. So, and when my older heads was telling me, I was just like, when the old head tell you like, young blood, don't go out there and do this. You're like, shut up. You don't know. It's just repeats itself. And I'm cognizant of it now. You want to be cognizant of it so you don't keep repeating things and putting things out here. So, to tie everything into this whole episode of Ain't No Half Steppin', like the author you had earlier, like he wants to put something down in perpetuity for people that's coming behind him, to know that he had something to say. I think this is what this is as well. And eventually I'm going to have something to say and put something out here on that same platform. So again, I thank you guys. It was a pleasure. John, you're a great bartender. I don't know if I should trust a bartender who doesn't drink, but y'all are here. If you hear about me on the news,
we're the best.
This motherfucker did
it. You made your last two drinks.
You made your last two drinks. Hey, look.
See, he's official with it. He's official. He's official with it.
Hey, look. He said he went. This is what he did to you just now.
You on your own. Yeah, right. No, much love. Peace,
Only the
brother.
viewers can see
Peace.
that. Yeah. What you got, John? Appreciate you, Grizz. You know, I'll give you both your flowers when it's my turn. What you got, John?
Thanks for coming out, Grizz. We appreciate you. You definitely made the show better by your presence. We really appreciate you. My rant tonight is slightly different than what I normally do because I really I feel accomplished as an individual. I've done most of the things that I've wanted to do in life. Some things that I want to do are a bit extravagant, and I still might get to those, God willing. Um, but what I really want to do right now is not very extravagant. I was thinking about this for the past week or so. I really want to help people and educate people. And this platform, I'm reaching whoever I can reach with this platform. But I'm telling you, folks, the game is rigged, right? But they left the instructions and the design available to you, right? It's available to you. Marcus was talking earlier about in the history about stop and frisk, right? And here goes the problem. Stop and frisk wasn't discriminatory. The police discriminate. The practice of stopping and frisking could possibly be a good thing. The problem is the police were told to only go to black and brown neighborhoods. So they only applied their tactic to black and brown people. They were told not to go to the white neighborhoods because there's no crime there. When statistics will show, this is why the math is important, that everybody is relatively equal when it comes to crime. Right? So cops are told the most important part of your job is to make sure that you make it home at night. There's nothing else. Forget about serve, protect, forget about making a difference, forget about anything. Your first priority above all else is to make sure you get home. So when they told them that, they followed up with, those black people will kill you. They criminal and they evil. You know how they do. You see how they treat their own place. Didn't bother to tell them that, it's been a psychological methodology to spatial relation and resources. So you put too many people in a small space and you limit the resources, you create criminals. But here goes the funny shit. They took white people and gave them ample space and resources, and they still do the same amount of crime. Right? But they just took the concentration of bodies and numbers and told the police this is where to go because it's fishing in a pond. They bring the fish in, they put them in the pond, they bring the black folks in, put them in the projects, and tell the police go fish. Of course you're gonna catch stuff. They was put there in the pond for you. Right? All of that to say, people, it's not that hard. Right? In modern history, the richest man on record is John D. Rockefeller. Relatively speaking. And the way the Rockefeller family became wealthy was one, by crime, and two, through life insurance. Right? I'm giving this away free tonight. Right? If you have a child, get a whole life insurance policy on the child now. Get one on yourselves now. Right? Set up a trust now. Right? Have the money from the life insurance. One promise always kept: if you're born, you're going to die. It's a promise that it's a lottery that you're going to hit. Your ticket is going to win one day. So when that ticket wins, when you hit that lottery and you get that money, make sure it's in your will that that money goes to the trust. Now, go out and get an immediate death benefit policy, which will pay out 10, 15, 25,000 the day after you produce a death certificate to deal with whatever burial ceremony you want to deal with. But have that whole life insurance policy go into the trust. And the same thing with every family member you have, right? Because that money in the trust and the whole life insurance policy, you can't tax it. You can borrow from it. You can borrow from the death benefit and pay yourself back with interest without having to pay taxes on the money you borrow. So instead of going to the bank for a mortgage, your family can go to the trust for the mortgage. Instead of going to the bank for a car loan, your family can go to the trust for a car loan and pay it back with interest. In 3 generations, think about your grandmother, if you still have her, or if you have a memory of her. If your grandmother and grandfather began this practice, today, your children, who are their great-grandchildren, will be able to live their life and experience self-actualization where they would not have to ever think about a bill for anything. Their shelter, their clothing, their health, and their safety would be secured by the money accumulated by the people who did what my mother used to say when we would say to her, "Mom, you have to sign this. You got to do this. You got to do it." My mother would turn it and say, "I don't got to do nothing but stay black and die." Right? So when your family does what they need to do, is no getting around it. When they die, let it be something there for the generations to have. And if you continue this, I'm telling you, if your grandmother has started it, your children today will be living a lifestyle of understanding the possibilities, right? Right? Hope and wish, like Cedric the Entertainer. White people hope and black people wish, right? White people walk, and here goes the difference, and this is where the racism is an issue. White people walk out in the world with an idea of possibility that they could do whatever they want to do because they've never been met with obstruction, right? Your children today can have that same experience in the idea of their mind if you remove the white Jesus, right? Remove Jesus, right? Put in place of Jesus art, culture, science, and math, right? Let them learn and grow and find out what their genius thing is in their mind and watch them become productive members of society. But the only way they can do that is you have to ensure their safety, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have to ensure that. And the way that you ensure that is by having some money somewhere that they can get to, right? That they can get to. Have a place where they can go that is safe, that is protection, that is a roof, that has food in it, no matter what. Because if you're a person and what you're thinking about is, am I going to eat? Grizzy said something about brothers back in the day. Yo, I got to get something to eat, and we're fighting, and that's real. I remember days of thinking, was I going to eat? Right? When I was out selling electronic draft capture, the thing where you put your credit card in, walking the streets of Manhattan with cardboard fixed in the holes in my shoes. Right? Going on Friday because they gave out pizza on Friday to the staff meeting because it was strictly a commission job. Right? I know that struggle, right? My children don't know that struggle. There's not a day my children ever thought, and they're adults, and to this day they don't ever think about, are they gonna eat? They don't even that's not in their head. They never think about I might be homeless. I thought about I might be, if I don't get this money this day, I can be in the street. I could be in a shelter. My children never thought about that. And to this day, they don't think about that. Right? Because whatever the situation is, I got a place for them to go. I got a space for them to be in, where it's warm, where it's protected, and where there's food. And they're adults. They grown ass people. My daughter has a child of her own. So, people, let's get it together. It ain't hard. It just takes a little consistency and a little bit of persistence. That's all it takes. Not a lot. You ain't got to change your whole world. You just got to change your view. Perception is reality. Move your seat, swivel it around. Look at the same thing from another angle and watch how it changes. And don't ever confuse motion with progress or sight with vision. And that's my rant.
Ain't no half stepping. Marcus J live from New Den Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you to everybody that rocked with us tonight. And it's been a great show. It's been a great evening. I'll take us home. I'll start with my thank yous. John, I'll thank you first, man. You always drop jewels, and we don't always agree and stuff, but that don't matter. I think folks who are not evolved in life expect that everybody's going to agree with them. And it's funny because when we had these conversations like we had tonight, particularly the ones that bring up race and race relations and all of that type of stuff, when I say we don't always have to have an agreement to have harmony, that doesn't just mean with you and me. When I'm gonna come back to that, or you and Grizz, or me and Grizz, I'll come back to that. But I also mean in race relations, because America is hard, man. It's hard. It just is, and everybody has their way and their perspective, and everybody's way and perspective. Not only is it indigenous to them, but it's very, very personal, and we always feel that our way is the way, or else it wouldn't be our way. And so if we know and we feel that our way is the way, there's a level of alphaness that comes with that. You don't want to hear nobody else's shit a lot of times. But guess what? You do. I appreciate the fact that every week or when we have an opportunity to build, we lock horns and we sharpen swords, and then we go have you a root beer, me a beer. you know what I'm saying? And I just appreciate that about you so much. And I just need you to know that. And, Grizz, as far as you concerned, man, you my brother, man. Like I usually have to peel you off the walls. And sometimes you stick. And it's hard to peel you off the walls, but I wouldn't trade the necessity of that for anything. I'd rather peel you off the wall and have a conversation with a lot of people. That means a lot to me, and I hope that means something to you. Having said that, my conversation tonight is going to be about self-preservation. Self-preservation is the first law of the land. And a lot of times people hear that phrase and they think that it means aggressiveness and fighting and all that kind of stuff. But tonight, and it usually does, but tonight it's going to be about self-care. It's about taking care of yourself, because we live a life of service. We live a life of taking care of other people, particularly the Christian doctrine that many of us come from, whether we still find ourselves in it or not. Many of us have a foundation built on some of those concepts because that's how we were raised. And that has a foundation of service to other people. And that's imperative. It's a part of the life that we live, it's a part of the country that we're in. Service, taking care of other people, making sure that people are straight, whether that be your friends, your family, your spouse, your children, your community, whatever it may be. But I think that we often will neglect the first and most important piece of service, and that's service to ourselves. When I use the phrase self-preservation is the first law of the land, is one of the first things that I learned when I was a young person. That means you got to take care of yourself. This is rhetoric that I often use, but it's very important rhetoric that it begs the need to reiterate from time to time. I'm well traveled, fortunate. I've been traveling my entire life. I've had a passport since I was in my teens. And it ain't to brag or boast. That's just to say what it is. I've been on a lot of airplanes. Every single time in my life I ever got on one, when they go through that whole rhetoric about how you're supposed to be protecting of yourselves in the case of emergency, one of the first things they tell you is one of them little mouth things falls down. You're supposed to put yours on first before you try to put it on someone else or before you try to help someone else. Why? The reason is if you don't put yours on first, you'll probably suffer and die. And guess what? Now you dead, and the person that you are tasked with helping is dead too. Why? Because you didn't protect yourself first. What are we talking about here? We talking about self-preservation being the first law of the land. That means if you don't feel like it, don't do that shit. That means if you feel like it, then do that shit. That means go get your nails done. That means go to the gym. That means lay on the couch. Now, all of those self-preservation things or self-care things are contingent upon you doing your work. You gotta do your work. Whatever your work is, you gotta do your work. But you gotta find time to take care of yourself. One of the things that I'm taught is that each of us has 24 hours in a day. You split that up multiple ways. 8 hours of that, you got to go to sleep. You got to rest, right? 8 hours of that is for your usual vocation. Got to go to work. You got 8 hours left. What you going to do with it? Now, many of us are going to spend some of that time taking care of and dealing with other people. I can dig it. It's in your blood. It's in your nature. It's in your culture. Got to do what you got to do. But you got to find time to do things for yourself. Find time. What do you like to do? I like to smoke me a little weed. I like to go to yoga. I like to go to the river. Those are the things that I like to do. That's how I self-care. But your self-care is different. And I know there's at least one person that's listening and watching right now that has their self-care that they don't implement into their lives. Why? Because they're so focused on taking care of other people. I can dig it. It's noble. Makes you feel good. Makes them feel grand. But eventually, you will burn out. You will exhaust yourself. And eventually, you may have some resentment towards them ungrateful motherfuckers who don't appreciate what you do for them. So you got to do for you. You got to take time to do for you. Because at the end of the day, you should be your first champion, your first cheerleader, your first you. Got to do you. That's my message tonight. And then that's my Marcus's unrelated rant. It's got nothing to do with we here talking about tonight. That is the end of the show. I want to remind everybody that independence is the key to building your legacy. I also want to say peace to all of the stars and all of the squares. The abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. Those would have been the words of Bob Marley, but my ass talked too long, so he done finished this song. I also want to let y'all know authenticity has no competition. What does that mean? It means it ain't nobody out here like John. It ain't nobody out here like Jay Green. I ain't calling you that. Grizz. Ain't nobody like, I promise you, ain't nobody like me. Ain't nobody like this socially awkward, shy, arrogant, shy, humble, ambivert who's a mix of introverted and extrovert. Ain't nobody like me. Ain't nobody like him. Ain't nobody like him. But you know what? That is our greatness. And that's yours too. Remember that. And you look in the mirror every single day and you tell yourself how great you are. And then you go out into the world and you show that shit. That's what you do. And it ain't got nothing to do with your color, your gender, your hue, or any of those things. Because the message that I just gave you is universal. And I need you all to know that. He knows it, and so does he. And so do I. And you should too. And you know, hashtag Marcus J. We'll be back 2 weeks from tonight on the 29th of August. We're off next week. We got our replays. We'll do whatever we do. Hopefully, you'll continue to support, like, and share. Whatever it is that you do to support us. We won't be live next week. We'll be back 2 weeks from tonight. We are the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. We're calling no hashtag Marcus J. So for John, for Jay Grizzy, and for our sister Steph B, who we love and we miss, I am Marcus J, chucking the deuces and saying, holla at your boy. Hashtag Marcus J. We'll see you in 2 weeks, y'all. Peace.
Oh yeah, I'm with this, I'm just gonna lay back and I'ma drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready, let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin' is the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, we full force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.